Remember, the mics are very sensitive, and please talk into the mics. For the board, we have Alan, Renee, Milton, Dick, Shari, Nancy, Lynn, Janet, Ginny, and Andy. Rafi, are you on the phone yet? We believe Rafi will be calling in. And senior staff, we have Sherry.
She's still sleeping.
Remind everyone that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast. And we do have our civility principles, so please ask everyone to remember them and abide by them. Milton, we have a special guest?
Yes, board members. I sent around an email earlier this week announcing that we have a new director of planning and community affairs. I've asked Kristen Russell to come to the board meeting this evening. I also promised her she would not have to stay the entire length of the board meeting, so that's why I asked her to come up so that you can meet her. And no questions at this time. She's only been here since Monday. We'll save that for a later date.
Oh, we'll get her.
Welcome, Kristen.
Good evening, everybody. Happy to be here to have a chance to have a first meeting with you. As you've just heard, I have been working here for a total of 4 days now. So there's still a pretty steep learning curve that I'm going through, but I'm really happy to have joined the CA team. I come to you with about 17 years of planning experience, most of which was in New Jersey in the New York metro area, but I moved to Maryland a little over a year ago, and now I'm here with you at CA. And I think that there will be a lot of exciting opportunities in the coming years, and I look forward to learning about the ways that I can work with you and for you, and see what we can do for Columbia together.
Thank you, Kristen. Appreciate your coming out.
Sure. And I am going to stay for a little while, just to observe.
Curious, huh?
Thank you.
Are they as bad as I
Okay,
heard?
next, the series of closed meetings to be held, to be announced. Got a list here. There was a closed meeting of the Architectural Resource Committee on Monday, September 9th, 2019. Members Sherry Fenneroff, Deb Bach, Gordon McPhee, Ann McChristis. The vote to close was 4-0-0. It was closed for Section 4, consultation with staff, personnel, consultants, attorneys, and other persons in connection with pending or potential litigation. The purpose was discussion of new and ongoing covenant cases. The meeting was closed at 1 p.m. and opened at 2:35 p.m. There was a closed meeting of the Audit Committee on September 23rd, 2019. Committee members present were James Young, Rafia, Dick, Renee, and Timothy Redmond. The vote to close was 5-0-0. It was closed under Section 1 and 4, discussions of matters pertaining to employees and personnel, consultation with staff, personnel, consultants, attorneys, board members, and other persons in connection with pending and potential litigation or other legal matters. The purpose for closing the meeting was to review several internal audit reports and to consult with staff personnel on legal matters. The meeting was closed at 8:02 p.m. and opened at 9:15 p.m. There was a closed meeting of the Risk Management Committee on September 26, 2019. Milton, Susan, Shari, Lynn, Rafia, and Nancy were in attendance. The vote to close was 6-0-0. It was closed under Section 4, consultation with staff, personnel, consultants, attorneys, board members, or other persons in connection with pending or potential litigation or other legal matters. The purpose for closing was to review the general liability self-insurance program and instances. The meeting was closed at 6:35 p.m. and opened at 7 p.m. There was a closed meeting of the CA Board of Directors on October 3rd, We had Dick, Renee, Lynn, Janet, Alan, Rafia, Andy, Jenny, and Shari. The vote to close was 8-0-0. Janet came in after the vote to close. The reason to close was Section 1 and Section 3, discussion of matters pertaining to employees and personnel, and consultation with legal counsel on legal matters. The purpose of closing the meeting was twofold, easements and the process for the president's evaluation. The meeting was closed at 7:10 p.m. and opened at 9 p.m. There was a closed meeting of the Architectural Resource Committee on Monday, October 14, 2019. Members present, Sherry Fenneroff, Deb Bach, Ed Gordon, Ann McKissick, and Carl McKinney. The vote to close was 5-0-0. It was closed under Section 4, consultation with staff, personnel, consultants, attorneys, or other person in connection with pending or potential litigation. The purpose for closing was discussion of new and ongoing covenant cases. The meeting was closed at 1:04 p.m. and opened at 2:25 p.m. And lastly, there was a closed meeting of the Board of Directors on October 18th, 2019. In attendance were Dick, Renee, Lynn, Alan, Milton, Nancy, Andy, Ginny, and Shari. The vote to close was 7-1-0. Andy was against. Reason to close was 3, consultation with legal counsel on legal matters. The purpose of the closed meeting was easements. The meeting was closed at 12:15 a.m. and opened at 12:42 a.m.
Welcome to our life.
Yeah, okay.
You're all welcome to stay.
Breakfast was served at 1 a.m.
Can you pass this down to Janet, please?
And wine.
All right, that's all I have.
Whoever said aye.
Let's move on to the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second? I think I saw Dick raise his hand. Dick seconded. Any discussion?
No, that's just.
Not all those in favor of the agenda? Unanimous. Thank you. Rafi, are you there yet? No. Go 9-0-0. No conflicts of interest have been disclosed to me. We're going to move on to resident speak out. And Janet, if you could hand me the list. Janet is going to be our timekeeper. Remind everyone, 3 minutes for individual, 5 minutes per group, 1 minute for responses to questions. And we do also have, I think, a little handout if anybody wants to be able to contact us and let you know how to email us or send us testimony. Okay, first up, Joan Langcoats. Welcome, Joan, and please speak into the mic. That way everybody, particularly those in the back, can hear you.
Good evening. Joan Lankos, 6110 Covington Road, 21044. I'm here as a member of the advisory committee to the Downtown Columbia Partnership, and I'm here to ask support of the funding requests of $200,000 in both FY21 and FY22 for the partnership. In the same way that Columbia amenities were pre-serviced during the early development years, the Downtown Partnership needs help funding its needs during the early years of the Downtown Columbia redevelopment. Once more properties are paying the SEPA fees, the partnership will become self-sustaining. Making sure that the DCP is up and running is important to CA. As new development comes online in downtown, not only will it pay the SEPA fees, it will also pay the CA lien, which will increase the bottom line for CA. CA needs to be an active partner in encouraging awareness of the uniqueness of Columbia and the opportunities the city presents as a special place with top-notch qualities of life. The DCP was created as part of the Downtown Master Plan to enrich the quality of life and community cohesion and connections. The DCP provides events and activities to draw residents in the greater community to downtown Columbia. It also does a great job of advertising events held by others in the downtown area. Participation in the annual Downtown Discover Columbia 5K increases every year. In addition, the DCP has recently taken over sponsorship of the long-running, excuse the pun, Clyde's 10K, held every spring. The partnership hosts the fabulous Books in Bloom Festival, which makes downtown Columbia the place to be on a Sunday in June. Regular cocktail crawls engage residents, workers in downtown, and especially millennials, and introduces them to the benefits of a live-work environment. Festive Fridays bring families to Lakefront in December. These activities promote the benefits of Columbia as a destination for arts and entertainment and as a center of employment. The advisory committee plays an important role in the partnership. Not only are committee members invited to attend the monthly meetings, we also provide additional effort on subcommittees such as the Downtown Walkability Committee, which actively works to enhance the pedestrian experience. We've gotten and continue to encourage various entities, including the mall, Howard Hughes, and the county, to provide missing sidewalks, crosswalk connections, signs, and signalization. Another committee is looking at directional and wayfaring signage throughout the downtown. Providing all kinds of transportation is of crucial importance to creating a vibrant downtown. Bicycle routes are just as important as bus routes in moving people throughout the area in the most efficient way. The partnership has taken an all-around look at transportation through its work with the county on developing a transportation demand master plan for downtown. In my 3 years plus on the advisory committee, I've witnessed an amazing amount of accomplishment done with minimal staff and funding. The $200,000 requested for both fiscal 21 and 22 provide a tremendous amount of bang for the buck in continuing to enhance the mission of engaging our diverse community and enriching the quality of life for all who live and work at Columbia. I urge you to fund both requests.
Thank you, Joan. Any questions? Jenny?
Yeah, just a couple of quick questions, Joan. In terms of the transit, I'm still not clear. They're assisting the county transportation department with developing a plan. But are they actually going to eventually be completely responsible for running a transit system downtown?
Not to my knowledge. It was
Center or anything like that?
The transportation plan was one of the requirements of the CEPAs.
Right, yeah.
And
The plan, but-
actually, we thought it was all completed last year, the actual plan, and then the county said they wanted more information. There's still a site that will be donated for a specific, right now we have the buses over by on the west side of the mall. There is a location on the south side of the mall that's been identified as a likely location. But the master planning, the providing of all of the amenities and such is not something that's other than land.
What my question is eventually, maybe in a year or two, will the downtown partnership be responsible for delivering a transit product, including whatever, circulator buses, et cetera, or will that be the county's responsibility?
Circulator buses could be part of the...
No, I mean, who's going to be actually running the system, the county or the downtown partnership?
It is my understanding, as far as the physical location of where all the buses and all other transit would not be done by the partnership. It could be that circulator buses or some such format could come at a later time.
By whom?
By the Downtown Columbia Partnership.
And they would pay for it?
I am not on the board. I'm only on the advisory committee, so I don't fully know the answer to that question.
Okay, I'm sorry, because
Philip
I have
would be the person to answer those questions.
Okay.
He unfortunately was unable to attend this evening.
I apologize, because I'm really having confusion about really what is the role of the downtown partnership. Is it just advisory in relation to transportation, or actually will run the system? The other question is, with all the work they're doing to encourage businesses to come into the downtown and stay there, et cetera, it's such a great thing because, as you say, it'll raise revenue for CA, but it'll also raise revenue for the county significantly, and of course the state.
Yes.
So is the county's Economic Development Authority contributing anything to this, or the county contributing anything to this, or the
Again,
partnership?
There are some monies that come in. CA does a lot of in-kind contribution already. I am not the best to ask all the details about the partnership, and I think Milton, as a member of the board, might be able
Okay.
to answer some of these questions for me.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay,
I'm
just
I'm
trying
on
to
the
figure out
advisory
if,
committee. I'm
I
the resident
apologize.
member. There's 2 resident members on the advisory committee. I don't own a business in downtown. I'm
I
a nearby resident.
apologize. Okay, thank you very much. Okay.
Any other questions for Joan? Thank you, Joan. Next up, we have Patrick Carrington. Welcome, Pat.
I have some photos.
Yeah,
Oh, sure, if you
zero.
just give them to Janice, she can send them around.
Good evening. My name is Patrick Harrington. I'm a resident of Oakland Mills and a parent of a Clippers and CNSL swimmer. I myself enjoy swimming for exercise, but like many others in Columbia, have basically given up on it because I got tired of having to sit and wait for available lane space in Columbia's pools. This past weekend, the Clippers hosted their first home swim meet of the season at the HCC Aquatics facility. I'm grateful that HCC allows us to use the facility, but frankly, it's inadequate for this purpose. I've provided a couple of photos for you to help you visualize the situation if you're not already familiar with it. From the top photo, you can see it's a 25-yard exercise pool with only 6 lanes, which is smaller than most of the CNSL pools used for the swim meets in the summer. There are no additional lanes for swimmers to stay warm between events. It has no seating area whatsoever. The starting blocks are quite antiquated. They're not well secured to the pool deck, and they shake and shift when swimmers jump off of them. You can also see that without a seating area, all there is room for is a small group of spectators to stand on one side of the pool and watch basically one event heat at a time, and then they have to leave the pool area. All of the other kids and spectators sit in a gym across the hall from the pool locker rooms, completely disconnected from the pool area. And you know what happens? The whole competitive atmosphere in the pool area is lost, and oftentimes during an event, it sounds more like a library than an exciting competitive swim meet. Getting in and out of the pool is quite a chore for swimmers, to say the least. The bottom photo shows my daughter next to the pool edge that towers about 2 feet above the water surface. That's not a problem if you're a 19-year-old HCC student. But imagine how difficult it is for a 7-year-old child who is exhausted from just completing her first 50-yard event. Last Sunday, I was volunteering on deck to help with timing, and I was constantly helping to pull kids out of the pool and up over that ledge. Tragically, I saw one young girl bang her knee pretty hard on the ledge as she was trying, just really struggling to get out. And rather than soaking in the excitement of completing a challenging swim event, she limped away from the pool in pain. That is just not acceptable. From the feasibility study, scenario 3 seems to me quite impressive and a huge improvement over our current situation. But I do have some concerns about cost if the pool brings in limited new revenue because it is still just a 25-yard facility. The Clippers' dues are already quite high, and any increase in the price could deter some from joining. There is no doubt that the most exciting scenario, which is not in the feasibility study, would include a 50-meter pool. I would like to hear more about why the board has given up on the idea of a 50-meter pool facility in Columbia, because from all of the people I've talked to, nobody seems convinced that all options for such a facility have been fully explored. But in the end, something needs to be done, and we shouldn't let perfect be the enemy of the good. Swimming is huge in Columbia, and the Clippers is the largest USA swimming team in Maryland. CA needs to work with the Clippers organization and other potential partners to ensure all possibilities for a 50-meter pool facility have been explored. If ultimately a 50-meter facility simply won't happen in our lifetimes, then something like scenario 3 would still be quite amazing, and in my view, and a major improvement over our current situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Any questions? Alan?
Yeah. I'm the liaison from the board to the Aquatics Advisory Committee. And when I get around to it, I'm a swimmer for exercise. And I would love to see a new facility. One of the issues we face is that right now, in contrast with most of our sports and fitness, the pools are subsidized by the entire city of Columbia. They don't earn enough to meet their costs. And this would add to that. So I guess what I'm struggling with and would love to find is a rationale to explain to residents why everybody should be contributing to support a new pool in terms of numbers. It's a tough one. I feel the same way about golf. I feel the same way about tennis.
Alan, your time's up.
Thank you.
Patrick, any
respond? Or?
Yeah, sure, you can.
respond.
I'm a parent. I'm not on the Clippers leadership, so I don't know all of the inner workings and all the budgetary issues with this. But it seems to me that a 50-meter pool would bring more opportunities than a 25-yard pool, just because we already have 25-yard pools around, and something that can bring in more revenue can be used to host larger swim meets, just something that's a little bit more unique, and it would be unique for Columbia, of course. I understand that that's much more expensive. I don't know if the revenue that would come in would help to offset that. Those are for the financial experts to work out. But our current situation, it's just not adequate. I think we can do better.
Would you support raising your assessment rate and everybody else's in Columbia's to afford this?
That's not for me to decide.
Loaded question, Alan. Nancy?
And it might be a question for Bill when he comes up. My question is, what are the fees and what do they fund?
What do the Clippers fees fund?
Right.
Again, I don't know where every penny goes, but we pay a certain monthly fee on top of the fee that we have to pay just to be a member of the pool. To have a pool swimming membership, and then and that I assume that covers the coaches and lifeguards and so on. But on top of that, we pay anywhere between $50 and $100 a month just to enter our kids into a swim meet. That's just for a swim meet. That's in addition to what we're paying just for the the regular monthly dues. So just for my daughter, who's 10, I think we're probably paying somewhere, if you count swim meet dues, well over $200 a month. And then you throw in travel and hotel, when you go to regional swim meets, it adds up.
Understand it does add up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Jenny, you got a question?
Yeah, just, in terms of who's going to actually be using this pool, I'm not quite clear on it. The Clippers would be paying rent, right? Paying towards the pool. But also the master swim, well, you'd be renting the pool
I think
certain hours?
that's a better question for Dan.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's not Patrick.
Just a parent.
Thank you, Patrick. Next up, Children and Company Preschool, but I don't have a name, so.
That's it, that's the name.
If you could just give us your name.
Wendy Allen.
Wendy Allen, thank you. Welcome, Wendy.
Hello, how are you this evening? I'm Wendy Allen. I'm here to represent the Families of Children and Company Cooperative Preschool in the Phelps Luck Neighborhood Center. Our preschool has been around since 1971 and has been at the Phelps Luck Community Center for over 20 years. We want to join in the discussion surrounding neighborhood centers. We feel the Phelps Luck Neighborhood Center is a huge asset and its absence would be very damaging to the community. We feel that Children and Company, as well as the Phelps Luck Neighborhood Center as a whole, represents the ideals stated in the CA mission: to engage our diverse community, to cultivate a unique sense of place, and to enhance quality of life. Our school provides convenient, quality, and affordable early education, which there is a huge need for in all communities across the county. Many families in our school walk and bike to school daily. Our membership reflects the diversity present in Howard County and imagined by Rouse. The relationship formed between members of our school lasts past preschool and continues to benefit the families, providing support, participation in volunteer and community activities together, sharing information, and participating in Howard County recreational sports teams. It's a lasting relationship that creates ties within the community and helps to prevent isolation, which can be so common in families with small children. Our preschool is often the first step in referring children to other vital Howard County services, such as Child Find, PALS, and the Infants and Toddlers program. And our teachers often work in conjunction with these services to provide children with the help they need to be prepared for elementary school. Kids Connection, which is also located in our building, provides before and after care and summer camps to Phelps Luck and many area schools, making it possible for families to easily plan their work schedule, knowing that their children will have a safe place to be while school is out. Furthermore, the Phelps Luck Neighborhood Center is currently home to a church and a karate program, in addition to being utilized by the community on days off from school, as demonstrated by a recent art class that was held in our building on October 18th, a day that Howard County schools were closed. In the summer, our Our building has been rented by Camp Oasis, which provides a full-day camp experience for children's ages 4 through 13, with the ability to add before and after school hours as well, after camp hours. This allows full-time working parents to continue to work during the summer while providing their children with an enriching experience within their own neighborhood community. According to your data collection on neighborhood centers, Phelps Luck Neighborhood Center has a positive net income even after recently undergoing renovations, including a new roof, new floors, and kitchen. We provide a steady income that is consistent and reliable. Children and Company has been able to meet the rent increases each year. We also have a wait list, so there's a continuous demand for the service we provide to the community. As a nonprofit, we have a limited budget for rent, and it is impossible to replicate the amenities of the Phelps Luck Neighborhood Center at the price we are paying. It meets all of our requirements, such as child-sized toilets, gated playground, central location, and a kitchen, and we don't have to rent it during the summer when preschool is not in session. Thank you for listening to our statement, and we hope that you will see the value in the Phelps Luck Neighborhood Center as much as we do.
Thank you, Wendy. Any questions?
Did you have a group
Jen?
that was going to stand to?
Oh. Well, thank you all for coming out. Thank you. Any other questions for Wendy? No? Thank you, Wendy. Next up, Bill Santos. Welcome, Bill.
Hi, everybody. Bill Santos, Chair of the Columbia Association Aquatics Advisory Committee. Since we got this started with our last speaker, let me get this out of the way. Anybody who's in favor of building a new indoor pool, please stand up if you support that idea. Good.
Thank you for coming out.
I'm going to go out off script here. Anybody opposed, please stand up. Okay. Hopefully by the end of the night, we'll have everybody in this room in favor of a new indoor pool. Okay. I have a letter that the CA or the CAC has put together for you folks. The Columbia Association Aquatics Master Plan, accepted and filed by the CA Board of Directors on June 14, 2012, was a product of a year-long community engagement process. One of the policies that was part of that process said that CA should build or should expand a year-round indoor pool capacity. Two other statements address the need to continue to evolve to meet the needs of the community and focus on enhancing overall pool system usage. Data collected at the master plan documented that one of the biggest challenges was the current indoor pool space, balancing pool times amongst the wide range of different uses. The Columbia Association Aquatics Advisory Committee actually recommends against the staff recommendation and would like to see this project go forward. I know we're going to hear a lot more about this later. Please read the rest of our letter as you go on. This is an expensive project. While I was getting ready for tonight, I pulled off a news article from the Washington Examiner from 2008, which reflected on a study that was done by the county on aquatics in 2008. But it quoted Michael Lazarus, who was a Columbia Clipper, 15-year-old Columbia Clipper. Michael's now 26 years old. This problem, although I thank you for all of your work and service to this board here, is a generational neglect. Michael will soon probably have children swimming. And the problems he was concerned about in 2008 still have not been addressed. We are looking at a big challenge here, but this is well-founded, well-sourced. Your own documentation, the Aquatics Master Plan, although the staff report and the CAC letter both reference the policy, which uses the permissive language of should build an indoor pool, under the implementation section of the Aquatics Master Plan. It's much more stark. There is insufficient year-round pool capacity to meet the needs of aquatic user groups. This has been something that's been going on since 2012 and has not been addressed. Under implementation strategies, it says expand year-round aquatics facilities to address the unmet demand for indoor pool time. It's very straightforward. It is not should, it's do it. And we haven't gotten around to doing that. And once again, this was something done a while ago. I appreciate all the time and attention you're giving it tonight. Something you should consider when you're talking about the numbers, and I've seen the report, the numbers are quite large. One of the things you guys are going to talk about is your fiduciary responsibility. And it's very easy to sit here and say, under our fiduciary responsibility, we do not want to spend this money. And that is a conservative approach. I want you to also consider that prior boards also took this position and have left us with a program that if we were to enact it now, the Clippers participation, the Masters and such can get fairly close on the operational costs. But the debt service that would be attributed to this building crushes the ability of anybody to meet the yearly bill that comes due. So I believe that by inaction, the fiduciary responsibility of prior boards has put this entire need in jeopardy. It is something that has to be done. Your own documents say that. So I ask that you all please consider holistically what needs to be done here. We have several parents that have shown up here tonight. I could bring hundreds more. Alan earlier asked about the justification for this. The Clippers and the CNSL, but the Clippers indoor plan is one of the primary ways that Columbia Association interacts with young families and young children. Many of the facilities, like the fitness centers, Haven on the Lake, oftentimes limit, restrict, and restrict the Haven, prevent any children from entering the facility. So this is one of the ways that you actually get to interact with the young families, and that is extremely valuable. I can't even put a dollar value on it. I think my time has run out, so if there are any questions.
Thanks, Bill. Nancy?
So the question that I asked Patrick Harrington about the cost and the cost for each Clipper member,
Sure.
and all those fees, what do they pay for? And would there be any money left from these fees to help pay for the pool?
I think, short answer is I don't have that number. I'm on the Aquatics Advisory Committee. My wife is the president of the Clippers Parent Board. We have fantastic dinner conversations.
I bet you do.
But I believe, as stated before, every Clipper family has to purchase a CA membership in order to participate in the Clippers. So there's that funds that come in. In addition to that, there's the team fees and the escrow accounts that also have to be funded. You're talking about hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars a year. If you take a look at your own pro forma for tonight's discussion, I believe it shows that the revenue that CA sees from the Clippers is about $600,000 a year. That's about 400 families. So if you want to talk about what does the Clippers present, the parents pay a lot of money. I don't have the exact number. We have other board members here tonight. They may be able to answer this definitively for you. But think about that. I think that kind of characterizes it. And I appreciate your question. Anyone else?
Any other questions? Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, guys.
Next up, Ray Lundvik. Welcome, Ray.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Ray Levesque, and my wife and I have lived in Long Reach since 2001 when we moved here, specifically because we were attracted to Columbia and the community that it has. And we've been happily raising our two sons here. We've been homeowners, lien-paying homeowners since then, and I'm here to voice our clear and strong support for building a new indoor pool. I think, as others have stated, I think that there is a need for it. I think it's something that's consistent with what I see Columbia being and what I want it to be in the future, in terms of being quite an asset for our community. And I think it's something that I will benefit from, my family will benefit from, and so will the community at large. Having read much of the Williams Architects feasibility study, it looked reasonable and thorough. I am, however, concerned that the staff recommendation is unduly negative, in my opinion, and points down a path that could essentially mean that this concept will forever be just out of reach, which I think is really unfortunate, and that seems inconsistent for the community that we live in. I don't think that it's, I think one of the reasons is that they're dividing it by the number of incremental revenue generating participants, which I think are, citizens of the community, that this would add. And it's saying that would be like 100, at most 187. And to me, that seems like the wrong number to divide it by, because certainly everyone who currently swims in an indoor facility in this community would benefit from that, because there'd be more lane space. As one of the earlier gentlemen spoke to, we would have more places that we could swim when we had the time. And so I think that not only does it benefit those additional people who are there, but also the current 300 plus that are Clipper swimmers, the master swimmers, the people who come and take swimming lessons. And I think that, beyond that, it's the fact that, waiting, if we were to wait, the Williams report suggests that the cost of construction will escalate by 5% per year. That seems like it's just saying we're never going to get there. And finally, in a community that has 100,000 residents, Columbia is the second biggest city in the state. If 5% of the people in this city use this facility, that's 5,000 people that would benefit from this facility. I think that's a more appropriate divisor for dividing into those costs. And I'll end by saying I'm the business chair for the Clippers Parent Board. So if you like, I could speak a little bit to what I know of some of those costs.
Thank you, Ray. Nancy?
I wanted to know, about the costs. That would be helpful, but I'm also wondering, and Bill might chime in, whether an outdoor pool being renovated, they're not big enough, and I know that that's what you're going to tell me.
Well, I don't know that would, if that would necessarily solve it from the standpoint of, I haven't looked into it, and so I don't think I'm really, well, I'm an engineer, I'm not really competent to make an assessment like that, especially this quickly. But it seems to me like there would be a lot of drawbacks for something you're trying to use throughout the year.
Right.
In the cold weather.
Well, no, I mean renovate as in make it an indoor pool.
Like to cover it somehow?
Right.
I think that was something that was looked at in the 2012 study.
It was.
And I haven't read that study, so I don't know, but I presume that was decided, it was seen as perhaps a non-starter, and thus we're having this meeting today about the more recent study.
Any other questions? Janet.
I was just wondering if you had any thoughts on the amenities, the free amenities that would be replaced in Long Reach, such as the tennis court and the basketball courts, by placing this facility there.
Oh, like about how that would take away things from if we were to replace Locust Park Pool with this facility?
Right.
I mean, I think it's one of those situations that we always encounter when we try to, renovate someplace. I mean, that, we're going to please a subset of people, but we're also going to impact another subset. I don't know if I'm really responding to your question or not.
Well, I mean, clearly I think you did, because I think the answer is you're okay with taking those amenities away. And my point is simply that those amenities probably serve more people than an indoor pool would. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
They might. I don't know.
Okay, let's, Shari.
Just one quick question. When we were first looking at this in 2010, 11, 12, we visited a facility in Montgomery County. Very impressive. Had 3 connected pools and such.
Wow.
And so at that time, there is some advantage to size in terms of providing multiple types of activities. But in order to get there, that pool was created by the county, by Montgomery County. What role do you see Howard County, the county government, playing as far as that type of facility would be concerned?
As a citizen of Howard County as well as Columbia, I would certainly think that would be the way it ought to happen, because it's clearly going to benefit people who not only live on CA property, but also people who are nearby who choose to use it. And I think that it's I'd hope that it would be a cooperative activity, but I recall seeing in the staff report, that was one thing that sounded like they attempted to look at working with the county and with the Howard Community College, and that didn't bear fruit, which was disappointing to see.
Thank you.
All right, Bill, real quick. You have to be really, really quick.
Just specifically on the issue of enclosing a current pool. Number one, all outdoor pools, the largest are 8 lanes, and most for competitive swimming need to be 10 lane in size, so it's a little bit undersized. Secondly, in order to enclose it, you would have to upgrade not only the bathhouses, you'd have to create locker rooms, the pump house would have to be redone, and all of the code upgrades. You're going to tear up all the pipes anyway, so it's actually cheaper to put in a new pool than to try and convert an old one. At least that's the data shows that we've seen.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks, Ray.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Ginger Scott. Welcome, Ginger.
Thank you, Andy.
Good evening. I'm Ginger Scott, and I live in Wild Lake. Haven on the Lake has just filled us with such a sense of deja vu. We saw it when Haven on the Lake was first under consideration, and when the Horse Center was up for its many reviews, and when Fairway Hills pro formas were upgraded from realistic to optimistic. Here are some of my questions and comments about the Haven on the Lake proposals. When tallying the number of member visits, why include kid-space children ages 1 to 7 who are not even permitted to participate in the fitness and wellness programs at Haven on the Lake? This reminds me of how Rod Goldman defined uses at the Horse Center. Each day a horse boarded counted as a use, even though the center did not offer a single-day package. I wish staff had presented alternative uses for the existing lease, perhaps moving CA headquarters to its home of many years, right in the center of downtown Columbia, maybe an elegant lakeside restaurant, perhaps a fabulous daycare center for the children of the thousands of people who will be living and working in Columbia's vibrant new downtown. When comparing the proposed options, why were pros and cons not evaluated in a more balanced way? Why has the staff moved out on their preferred choice before hearing from the CA board and from the assessment payers who are and will be stuck with the bills? Thank you.
Thank you, Ginger. Any questions? Thank you, Jennifer. Next up, we have Ed Coleman. Welcome, Ed.
Hi. So I'm Ed Coleman. I live on Hobnail Court in Long Reach. I'm the vice chair of the Long Reach Village Board. Right now I'm speaking on behalf of myself, mainly because we have not had time as a board to discuss the issues as far as the pool was presented tonight. And I just want to make a couple quick comments, is that the board in the past has taken the position that we were in favor of having that pool replaced with an indoor facility. And as far as I know, that position has not changed. I don't believe we've ever discussed having the community center replaced, though. And before I get to that, the other issue would be, as far as the exterior design goes, you're putting a building into a residential area, not an industrial park. And the appearance, the external appearance of that building should fit with the neighborhood and the surrounding community, and be a pleasing amenity to go in for it to be approved. And when it comes to the community centers, as was spoken earlier, those facilities in Long Reach serve a wide variety of our residents. and actually represent income stream for the Long Reach Village Center itself, so CA. What I would propose is when you look at this swim center, that you consider actually making it a multi-use building. You're going to be designing a building that is going to have a surge capacity for these large swim meets. What are you going to do with it the rest of the time? If you had public meeting spaces, community rooms that would serve the same purpose that community center serves now, you could drive revenue and usage of that building throughout the week and at other times when it's not just swimming. And then during search times when there were meets, those rooms could also serve to enhance the experience of people using that facility. So the community would win all the way around if you considered that. And just as an aside on process, you as a board often talk about improving relations. The reason we haven't talked about this specific issue as a board, the best that I can tell is that the board was notified on Saturday that this was on the agenda. Our village manager received an email on Tuesday that it was on the agenda and that we probably should send somebody here. Our village board meets the first and third Tuesdays of the month. So we have not had time to adequately even address this or talk about it amongst ourselves to present a unified opinion to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. Any questions? Thank you, Ed.
Thanks.
Next up, we have Pamela Kumar. Welcome, Pamela.
Thank you. I'm here tonight as a member of Haven on the Lake. I'm Pamela Kumar. I live in Dorsey Hall. My husband and I moved to Columbia, to Owen Brown in 1974 and to Dorsey Hall in 1981. So we're pretty long-time residents, and we love Columbia. But I just found out back in March and April that what I really love is the openness and the feeling that I get when I go to Haven on the Lake. I go every day. Some days I take 2 classes a day, yoga, Pilates, meditation. I don't see it just as an exercise, as improving my physique. I see it as improving my entire life, my mentality, how I look at other people in Columbia and everywhere, and how I interact with people. And it is the most wonderful experience I've ever had. So I came here tonight because I knew that you were going to be looking at the direction of Haven for the future. So I did want to express from myself and from talking to other members each day when I go to Haven, we all talk about how this is improving our whole outlook on life. And I think as Columbia grows and it's going to be changing in a lot of really good ways, that Haven on the Lake can become even more important. And I think the membership will grow and it will help us, it will improve and reinforce the attributes that Columbia currently has. I mean, I see Columbia as a very open, very diverse, very kind place. And Haven reinforces that. And I just wanted to express that since I knew you would be looking at the future of Haven. And I do thank you for allowing me to do so.
Thank you, Pamela. Any questions? No. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have James Forrest. Welcome, James.
Thank you. Ooh, wow, that's loud. Thank you all for hearing me out this evening. I have a quick confession. I actually live in Ellicott City right now.
Oh, no.
I know, terrible.
We're very tolerant, you know, so.
I was a 22-year resident of Clements Crossing, and I am here tonight to testify on behalf of the new indoor pool, specifically to help the Clippers swim team expand. I do this as an alumnus of the Clippers, and as somebody who really benefited immeasurably from having that in my life. So I started out swimming at age 5, and I did that with the Clements Crossing Cyclones. It was a wild time, but by age 8, it was clear that I was pretty good at swimming, and I needed some room to improve. So I went and swam with the Clippers. I swam there for 10 years, all the way up until college. Given my grades in high school, I can tell you that swimming certainly helped me get into college. And while I was there, it gave me a network of friends and companions that I've kept throughout my entire life. It is also where I met my wife, a fellow swimmer. And all of this really ties back to my time with the Clippers. And, well, I'm not going to sit here and talk about the cost too much. I will speak a little bit about the value to me. And that value was most salient on August 2nd when I got married. And just before my wife walked down the aisle, I looked back at my groomsmen, and I can tell you that we didn't go to the same schools. We were not the same age. And, you know, we really didn't have anything in common except for the fact that they were all with me at Clippers all the way through. So just to frame that a little bit, I know you all know this probably better than me. Columbia Association's mission is to make Columbia a better place to live, work, and play, and I can tell you that the Clippers did that for me. And to expand capacity for other young adults, other swimmers, to have the experience that I have, I couldn't not get up here and testify. Oh, and I also will say, Bill Santos spoke about Michael Lazarus earlier. Yeah, he was one of the groomsmen standing behind me. So, anyhow. Near 100,000. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, James. Any questions? Alan?
Here is my unfair question of the day. Is it possible that spending less time swimming would have upped your grades?
Okay, we're going to move on. We're going to move on.
Hey, Jeff Scribner, my swim coach, actually did spend a lot of time getting me through Algebra 1. So thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, James. Next up, we have Nina Basu.
That's me. Huge distance. Hi.
Welcome, Nina.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm Nina Basu, President and CEO of the Inner Arbor Trust, 5430 Vantage Point Road, Columbia 21044 is our business address. And I'm here to thank CA for its support in so many ways as the trust operationalizes and activates Merriweather Park at Symphony Woods, the 50.6 acres of protected open space owned by CA, completely encircling Merriweather Coast Pavilion, of which roughly 23 acres is in phase 1 of the easement, as in is controlled by the trust. I think I've seen the vast majority of you at events at the Chrysalis, so thank you very much for your attendance. I'm here today to advocate for our request of $183,000 for an operating grant for FY 2021. I think most of the backup information has been provided to the board, including our projected revenues for FY21 as well as our anticipated expenses for FY21. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about what your investment in the trust gets CA and make myself available for questions. So first and foremost, the trust was created by the Columbia Association to protect and develop this parcel of land as an arts park for the community. As part of that mission, we were instructed to provide a substantial number of free arts programs to the public. We, I believe, have met this criteria of our mission. We held numerous free events, generally in 2 series. The first is the Community Concert Series, where we fill the lawn full of Columbia residents, Howard County residents, as well as people from the greater region for events like the Columbia Orchestra Summer Pops concert, which started in 2017 and topped over 5,000 this year in 2019. In addition to that concert, we had hosted Maryland Winds and Cultura Planera, which is a Howard County-based Maryland Traditions Heritage Award winner that until they performed with us, never performed in Howard County before. They, again, brought about 5,000 people to the park for a completely donor-sponsored, free-to-attend event. That series ended with Maryland Winds, which is a new professional orchestral ensemble that exists here in Howard County. Our Chrysalis Kids series is in its second full year, and that is our series of children's and family programming. And we partner with a number of local not-for-profits to provide the artists and also to bring folks out there. We have a number of partnerships, including with Howard County Recreation and Parks, Howard County Public School System, and others to make sure that we're getting, the true cross-section of Howard County and Columbia for those events. Finally, Downtown Columbia Mini Maker Faire, which is a conglomeration of basically everybody downtown, was in our second year, and we brought over 2,000 people. It's a little cold this year. Over 2,000 people to a festival of science, technology, engineering, art, and math during Maryland STEM Festival. And we were able to bring in significant donor money to help support those series. In addition to the free series, we have a number of ticketed events. We have taken this board's charge seriously to find revenue streams. We do everything from selling adult beverages at every appropriate event. We tried to call our kids series Mimosas with moms and dads, but that really didn't go over so well. We rent chairs for $5. We make asks to our corporate partners as well as our guests to support this very important work. So I think you're getting good value for your money, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Nina. Any questions? Thank you, Nina.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Rhonda Johnson. Welcome, Ron.
Hi, how are you? Hi, my name is Rhonda Cherie Johnson, and I'm a Howard County resident living in the Long Reach area at 6099 Majors. I've been there for over 25 years. And I came, I just heard like yesterday or the day before about the desire to put in a pool, indoor pool in the neighborhood center area. And just wanted to represent families and myself who have raised our kids in that area and utilized the neighborhood center and have seen our neighborhood, the farms disappear, the natural fields and everything with the athletic fields that are now over in the Long Reach area. And with the neighborhood center, a lot of families use it for daycare as the same as Phelps Luck. And I think it's really important for parents, especially those who commute and go to other areas, to be able to have daycares close to their home area. I used to work in Crystal City, and when my kids were young, it saved me. My kids were being moved 3 times a day, and being able to go right next door to the school for my children was very important. And looking at a lot of the families in the area where I live, in the Treover neighborhood, there's at least 400 families just in that one small location. So just the families that would be affected and the children in the area, having that taken away would just be devastating in my opinion. And with all the pools in the area, and with the colleges that are in the area that have pools like UMBC, Howard Community College, I'm sure that with the Columbia facilities and those areas, and maybe other warehouse areas or land within the Howard County area, that may be a better fit other than our neighborhood centers. And that's
Thank you,
all I wanted
Rhonda.
to say.
Quick question.
Any questions? Ginny?
Yeah, you were saying you live on Majors Lane. Are you referring to your children went to the Jeffers Hill Neighborhood Center?
Yes, and then my mother and I also lived in the Phelps Luck area growing up as well.
Okay, so the
both
Jeffers
Phelps
Hill
Luck and
Neighborhood
Jeffers
Center.
Hill.
So neighborhood center is the Jeffers Hill one.
Right.
Okay, the pool would be the Locust Park one area.
Right.
Okay, okay,
Yes.
I got it, thanks.
Yes, but that area, it's like with the families in those areas, utilizing those with the daycares and things like that at Phelps Luck and Jeffers Hill are really important.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Alan?
Could you envision, as a previous speaker said, whatever the building that's created to house this new pool could include a facility where a daycare center could be, for example?
Yes,
And that'd be acceptable?
yes. And if there were like meeting areas as well. If those two things were included and residents did not have to be Columbia Association members in order to utilize the facility, then I think it would be a win-win.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
That's all I have on my list. Anyone else want to speak out? All right, thank you very much. We're going to move on the rest of our meeting. Milton, could you pass this down? Okay, consent agenda is approved, as we approve the agenda. Move on to the board votes section. So on to the budget items. So I will remind everyone that the input I received back from the board showed that we would like to take separate votes on the neighborhood center, the Long Reach pathway, the town center lakefront renovations, the tot lots. Those were the capital projects, and for the operating budget, the community outreach position, funding for Arts Festival, funding for Downtown Columbia Partnership, and funding for Ann Arbor Trust. Alan?
Could you remind us and the residents who are here, this is not the final vote
No,
on the
oh no,
budget.
this is just to include it.
Could you remind them what's the process between
Sure.
now and the final vote?
Okay, so for this vote, this is, the board would direct staff to include these items in the proposed 2021 budget. Staff will go back, put these in, look at the budget numbers, prepare a budget for us, which will be distributed probably end of December, beginning of January. We will then hold budget hearings through January and February to discuss the proposed budget, and we will take a final vote on the budget at our meeting in February, which was fourth Thursday. So that will be the actual final approval for the budget. And we take testimony, we take resident input at any time. You can always email us, that's probably a really good thing, and you can also come to Resident Speak Out. Denny, real quick.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Andy, did you say we're going to take the community outreach position for diverse community separate?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. All right. So as I said, hearing that those were the only ones the board wanted a separate vote on, is there a motion to basically include all the other items from Capital 1, Capital 2, and the operating, except the ones I mentioned? Is there a motion to direct staff to include those into the budget? Dick made the motion. Is there a second?
If I make a second, can I then ask a question?
Sure, yeah.
I'll make the second.
Sure, okay. Your question?
My question is,
Yep.
I've been talking to people about all the money we need for all the things we need to do. And we talked about this back in June or July, about raising the fee from 63 cents?
It is 68 cents.
68 cents, sorry folks, to 69 cents, which would help bring in another $500,000 a year, and at the same time cost an average of $20 a year for individual homeowners. Is there any way we can discuss this and possibly bring that vote back? I know it's a pain in the patoots for everybody,
Make a motion.
but it brings us the extra
Right.
money. So I will make the
Well,
motion.
we got another, let's do this motion
Okay.
first. Let's bring it up after we do the budget stuff, because this is all under the current budget, and then we can address your request.
Well, $500,000 will make a big difference in how we look at things.
Well,
No, this is capital budget. I mean, this is capital
Okay.
and operating budget. It's all built to the parameters. Remember, the board approved the parameters in July. We approved the parameters.
Suggesting a change in the spec.
But that still doesn't affect, all the items we have here are all within the parameters we set. So even if we suddenly raise the parameters, it doesn't affect any of these.
Okay.
Yeah, because this is all within the parameters we.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
But I would also want to make sure that if we were to consider something like that, that the public is on notice that we're doing
Right.
that. So
Yes.
to vote tonight would not allow for public input.
Okay, but let's take that up
No,
when.
yeah, okay.
All right, so we have a motion to approve all the other items that the board did not want to vote on separately. Any further discussion? I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of those items?
We bounced them.
What?
I don't know, is that going?
Is it Rafi trying?
Any opposed? Okay, everybody but Renee, I'll put it this way. Abstain, okay. So that passes. All right, let's go with the actual items the board wanted to. So I'd like to do is just kind of take them in order. So the first one was neighborhood center renovations. Okay, so let me ask, is there a motion to basically include the neighborhood center renovations as we discussed last?
Andy, the number, please.
Oh, it's item number 3, page 1-10. Okay, so is there a motion to include the neighborhood center renovation item in the budget? Dick moved. Is there a second? Nancy seconded. Discussion. Ginny?
Yeah. What I was trying to say is, last time, is I think we should condition this on the board taking a position on what we're going to do about neighborhood centers. Because otherwise, the same situation we had last year on the playground is going to just continue. So either we're going to make a decision on the approach that this board will have regarding neighborhood centers, or we're not. But I think that should come first, or, you know, before we start approving individual, which is like, I guess about, in the budget currently, about 500,000 or something like that. For 2 neighborhood centers, and we have not made a decision. So it's nothing against the neighborhood centers that are in this budget. It's more, do we have a plan or don't we have a plan?
No, I will point out that what we're actually working on, just to Ginny's question, it's neighborhood center renovations pending completion of the neighborhood centers study. Actually, I think it means policy. So that requirement is
wording, okay.
already in the thing.
Okay.
Janet?
So I would like to amend that to be if the 2 originally designated neighborhood centers pass the criteria that we include, that they be first on the list because they have been neglected for far too long.
Sure.
Well, Janet made that amendment. Is there a second?
Second.
Yeah, I'll
Lynn
second that.
seconded. All right. Any further discussion on the amendment?
No.
All those in favor of the amendment? Unanimous. Okay. How about discussion on the amended motion? Alan?
Well, this is capital funding,
Yes, it's capital fund.
Right.
but and I get that if we increase the rate, that's operating funds, not capital funds, and yet I know that doing things to capital items affects the operating budget in ways that only Susan knows and are beyond me. But it does, for me, illustrate the connection of the 2, and neighborhood centers being specifically something that, I'll just speak for myself, but I think I speak for others as well, we want to see, I want to see funded, renewed, and supported, that a revisit to our basic parameters might be in order, particularly once we find that study. the answer to that, the study, because it may be that we need to put more bucks in than money that's in this budget.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think we also talked about the issue where it says full building renovation. And all of the things that are listed there, if we begin to think in terms of multi-purpose
Right.
buildings,
Right.
then that kind of changes that. Are we talking about a two-story building? Are we talking about different ways of developing multi-purpose buildings? I think there's more discussion that has to go on in that broader perspective before we commit $400,000. I certainly don't want this building to be neglected any further. And if there's rainwater coming in, for example, or if there's flooring that's coming up, or things of that kind, then those are the sorts of repairs that need to be made. But to me, repairs is a little different than full building renovation. So let's not let those things continue if they're hanging out there. I'd rather see those things done immediately so people can continue to use the building and it doesn't represent any kind of real problem. But we've got to get a broader picture here about what we're putting this money into.
Dick.
I'd just like to remind everybody that what we are talking about here is putting money in the budget so that when we make these decisions, the money will be there. And we will have further discussions on neighborhood centers, but it's not going to do us any good to have a further discussion if there's no money to follow through. So I'd like to suggest we put the money in there. It's a placeholder. And as Janet suggested, once we have hashed out this whole neighborhood center question, these centers would probably have priority. But we don't have to make that decision right now. Let's just put the money in and move on.
Any, sorry.
Any point of information, what is the other center?
Jeffers Hill.
Jeffers Hill.
And where is that located?
Jeffers Hill's Long Reach.
No.
I'm sorry.
In our book.
17.
It was
number.
It was page 2-5. Remember what we said
28.
is, well, it was item number 20. What we said was we were going to combine the two that were specified and just call it neighborhood centers, just to put the money there.
Right, but it's applied.
Okay, so I'm just concerned that one is in one section, one is in a different section, so it looks like one is repairs, one is full renovation. I'm just not understanding. So this one has 161,000. Should we add that to the 387 to get one figure for both centers?
We're doing this in 2 fiscal years. So remember, there was a reason why we split it up for 2 fiscal years, 387 and 161.
But
Right,
those
they're in
are for
different
those
fiscal
two
years.
specific neighborhood centers, and we
Right.
talked about not being specific.
Dennis? Right. But that's why we said, that's why we made the category, the items say neighborhood
They
centers.
pass our criteria. they
Right,
should be at the
until we
top
have
of the
our
priority
criteria.
list.
Right, right.
But what we're
voted
done
on
is we're reserving, as Dick said, we're reserving money in each fiscal year for some type of neighborhood center renovation pending our policy.
Mhm.
That's,
Yeah, it's the
that is the
policy
way
that
I
I was trying to
read what
get.
the board wanted last
Right.
time, where we just simply kind of put a generic line, saying neighborhood centers, we put the money in there, and we will determine as we figure out our policy where we go.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does, perfect sense.
All right, there's no further discussion. All those in favor, the motion which is amended to approve that money? Unanimous. All right, let's go on to Long Reach Regional Pathway. Is there a motion to approve that? That's $207,000 in fiscal year '22, and it's page 1-17. Is there a motion? Janet? To include that in the budget?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay, good.
I preferred it the first year, but I'll settle for the second.
Is there a second? Lynn.
Second.
Lynn seconded.
Second.
Janet moved and Lynn seconded. All right, discussion.
17 is in 2021.
Well, do you want me to speak to that?
Yeah.
Or do you want to speak to that?
We
That's
we
fiscal year
agreed to
22.
move that money from one year to the other.
That's right.
Wait a minute, Ginny has.
Yeah, the reason I was discussing that last year is we've got to see maybe what happens to the village center and whether the pathway that's discussed here makes sense, or maybe it needs to be a little different. But certainly, you know, I agree, you want to connect the tennis club with the village center. But this is very specific how you do it, and I'm not sure we really know that at this point. So we'd want to really move more on the village center revitalization.
Renee.
So
First.
I think you're absolutely right in understanding what's going to happen with the village center. So I would like to be able to vote for this motion subject to a review of the plans for the village center. In other words, use it as a placeholder not to be spent until we've reviewed what's going to happen to the village center.
We would review that budget anyway, so that's the second fiscal year. This is a 2-year budget, so
Right.
that's the second year. We come back and review it anyway.
So the entire budget?
Yeah, which is why
For
it
that
was
year.
moved to the, why I was moving
Okay.
it to the,
Okay.
suggesting moving it to the second year as
But I
opposed to
agree,
this
that
year.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Any further discussion?
We've
No, I'll call the
accomplished
question. All those in favor of the cleaning the path? Okay, good. Next is the town center lakefront renovations. Is there a motion to include those in the budget? That's page 1-20. It's $100,000 in fiscal year 21. That's all. Is there a motion to include?
I've got a question. Is
Yeah.
that the same 100,000 we keep moving year after
No.
year?
No, different.
So have we spent the 100,000?
No, we have not.
No.
Okay, so.
This,
So, yeah.
if I
Okay.
may.
So it is
Sure,
the
let-
same
let-
100,000?
No, no.
These dollars are for, basically, these dollars are more for repair. There's amenities that CA own on the lakefront that
Right.
we want to address with this, as opposed to doing we don't have a plan on our property presently for any upgrades or improvements to the lakefront. These are dollars to do improvements to our existing amenities we have down there.
Can I ask for a motion first before we get into this?
So moved.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Nancy. Ginny moved, Nancy second. Okay. Shari.
All right, so can we please change what this actually says? So it would be provide funding for repair, if I'm understanding what you just said, repair of the Z-wall along the lakefront.
Well, right now, we're saying reconditioning. Okay, we can say repair. Whatever it takes, yes. We're not putting anything new. We're just repairing, reconditioning the Z-wall on the lakefront.
Okay, and then all the rest of that sentence comes out.
It works for me.
Okay. Thank you.
And remember, we took out there was supposed to be a 500,000. We took that out. Right. Remember that was gone
Right,
because
right.
we said.
Deleted that.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that? Unanimous. Okay. Next one is the Columbia Tot Lot renovation. Is there a motion to include that in the budget?
So moved.
Oh, item number 14, page 1-21.
So moved.
Okay, Renee moved. Is there a second? Dick seconded. All right, discussion. This is Tot Lot. And if you notice, there is some additional handout, information that staff provided today. Hopefully you got it. If not, but Milton first.
I'd just like for us to, Dennis, give you an overview of what we're talking about, because here we are talking about two large sums of money. We're talking about $456,000 in both fiscal years. And along the same lines as it is with the neighborhood center, we're doing this work without truly a plan for tot lots. We have 173 tot lots. My humble opinion, we don't need 173 tot lots. So,
Dennis, you want to say a few words?
So we are, of course, working to consolidate tot lots to the best of our ability internally, and then working with Ginny and Oakland Mills on a longer-term plan that would be rolled out to all of the villages. But in the interim, there's some funds that are necessary to keep some of the tot lots open. And there are, I think, 17 swings that are out of service. There were 30, but we've worked our way through a bunch. While we're on site, if it makes sense, we do other renovations to existing forts, or if there's an activity center of some kind, or spring animals, or teeter-totter. But it is a lot of money, but there are a lot of tot lots. And so if you spread this out across all of the 173 tot lots, it's not a huge sum of money. I'd like to.
Okay, let's see. I think I had Shari, Janet, Alan, Ginny. Shari, Janet, Alan, Ginny.
Dick has his hand up.
Oh, Dick is there.
I
Okay.
thought we were voting, I'm sorry.
Okay, Shari.
Okay. All right, so, sticker shock, $900,000
No, make it a
for
million,
100,
round it
for,
off.
for 10.
20.
10, well.
10 per
Okay.
year.
And so we asked a question last week about different sizes of tot lots. Some are very tiny, have almost nothing except a bench, maybe a sandbox, and some sort of little wooden structure, and some don't even have that. And some are somewhat larger. So the question that I asked was about the cost of repairing those tot lots with attention to the safety issues, like the swings, anything that represents a real safety issue. Of the figures that you gave us, can you break down those figures into materials versus labor? You made the point about some new materials coming online, which were better than the older materials because they lasted longer. And I think that's a very good point. But looking at one of those small tot lots, how much are we talking about in terms of the actual material cost? Not the labor, because I think our folks do the labor, don't they?
Yeah.
Okay, so not the labor, but just the materials. What are we looking at?
It depends. Each tot lot is individual. There probably aren't, out of the 173, there must be 15 or 20 that are so similar they'd be thought of to be identical. But if the tot lot gets so small that Castile Court in Oakland Mills is a good example. It started with the swing. The swing had to go away because of fall zone safety. Then it had a tube and then a tube and a bench. And it was just so we took it out of service. So something that small, really, the expense would be there might be a swing if it fits within the fall zone. Castile Court did not. We couldn't make that work where it was. So I don't have a specific material cost because they're all so different that I can't. And I actually didn't put this together thinking in those terms. I could do that, but I don't have that in front of me.
Okay, so just as an example to ballpark it, you guys did a great job redoing the tot lot, which is one of the bigger ones in King's Contrivance that was flattened by the tornado. And that was a recent thing that happened. What did that cost in terms of just materials?
I have to get that to you. I don't have that. We do a lot of work each year, and I just don't have them all memorized. I can find it out, but I don't have that specific one.
Okay,
And this money is really for refurbishment and not for replacement. And so we have a program so we're not going in and thinking we're going to wholesale replace anything. As an example, so there might be a swing that goes out of service because the wood timbers are rotten. And so we take that out of service and we put a metal swing in. And while we're there might be, the fort might have 2 or 3 or 5 bad posts, and we refurbish that to extend the life of it rather than replacing it totally with a new metal structure. So these are to try to get 10 or 15 more years out of the existing tot lots, understanding that for the swings, it doesn't make sense to put wood structures back in because the treated lumber is just not what it used to be. So these aren't big replacements. This is not for big replacements. This is just kind of keep the status quo until we can develop a long-term plan. And with that, but we are also thinking this through. And when we go to a tot lot, if we look at it and say, well, this doesn't make any sense. There's a Castile Court. It doesn't make sense to downsize it so much. There's no tot lot. We took it out of service. or if there are 6 swings and it doesn't, it's not well used and they don't fit the fall zone, we're not expanding them to create expanding the outline of the tot lot. We might take something else and move it or take it out of service. But this is really to try to work within the footprint of what we have and try to keep them running until we have a longer-term plan.
Janet?
So I just want to make sure I understand. So this money, in your opinion, is like critical care, kind of, in the order to maintain what we have?
So in order to maintain what we have, it's critical care. But you could say, look, I don't really, so we have 173 tot lots. Do I really need all of them to have swings? We could take 17 are out of service now, and we could just say, until we have a long-term plan, that those 17 would remain out of service. There are some things that we have to fix that are ongoing, that are minor, and that we continue to do. But if you decided that you didn't want to, if the status quo for the short term or intermediate term wasn't appropriate, then you could set this money aside.
And until we establish a plan, would you anticipate this same expenditure every year?
Well, we stopped using wood framing for swings, although some of them, I look at them, I go out with the guys every 4 weeks or so, and it's interesting. Some of the really old ones look great. The stuff they were using 20 years ago was really good. The stuff they have now is not as robust, but there are always going to be some. I wouldn't anticipate we wouldn't end up with, after tot lot inspections, the annual tot lot inspections, we wouldn't end up with 30.
So was that a no?
So the
you
answer
don't
is,
expect
we're always
this
going to have some. You're not going to, I don't think we'll have, I wouldn't need this amount of money in perpetuity. In addition to which, I'm assuming you would create a plan.
Alan?
Yeah, a couple of things. One is, do I understand you to say that you have decommissioned tot lots in the past?
One.
Did we know about that?
The Oakland Mills Village Board did.
Well.
That's my question.
So I didn't, we didn't bring it here. No.
Exactly.
And
Which
it's
would be
on
one
hold
of the
pending the
deals we
results
work
of the Oakland Mills tot lot study.
Dick?
Oh,
sorry.
I would just like to say that tot lots, neighborhood centers, those kinds of things, to have that be a regular practice, that we decommission things without the board having a plan for it, doesn't sit well with me.
I recognize that.
As I do the math, it's $45,000 per tot lot. And I guess I know my scale is home residential and your scale is commercial. But if we're doing the work, that seems like an awful lot of money for parts.
It is an awful lot of work because when you do, you almost always have to adjust the fall zone. If you put something new in, you have to take 12 inches of dirt out, make sure you have the right amount of mulch in. There are a lot of timber walls around. If you go out and visit tot lots, almost all of them have some kind of timber wall around them. And the timber walls are of age, just like everything else in Columbia. So it's not any one specific thing. It's the combination of everything.
Okay, thank you.
Dick?
One of the stories that's commonly told about Columbia is that Jim Rouse put the mailboxes out in the middle there so everybody could meet their neighbors. And I don't know if that story is really true or not, or it was just something the post office made him do, but the tot lots serve that purpose. They are miniature neighborhood centers where neighbors get to meet one another. We recently had one of our tot lots refurbished, and I can tell you it's a real community builder. It's where parents meet other parents, the kids get together, and I think it's a very important part of what Columbia is all about. So we can haggle over the various prices and how this thing's going to be done, but they are a valuable resource.
Ginny's next. Ginny?
Yeah. One of my concerns is the amount of money and 172 tot lots, and furthermore, maybe is tot lot even make any sense, all of the tot lots, or do we look at some new concept of maybe an intergenerational, I think what Dick's talking about, a gathering place, that maybe there are fewer tot lots, but a more centrally located gathering place that makes more sense. So I guess my concern is we need to develop this criteria quickly. If it's an environmentally sensitive area, maybe we close that tot lot, because expanding it would be an environmental hazard or something. So, I mean, there's a lot of things here, and I just don't want the money spent. Even if there's 6 swings and one breaks down, frankly, take the one swing out. Don't replace it until we get the criteria for what we are going to do about tot lots, because it is expensive. People keep coming here asking for money for other things that they really want. So I respectfully have a concern that we really need that number of tot lots anymore, and that the tot lot even makes sense, the word tot lot. So thank you, Dennis, for what you're doing on this.
Well, Dennis, no, I'm not surprising him with this, but basically I'm concerned about the amount of money that we are requesting as staff here without a plan. And my conversation with Dennis, I told him I would love for the board to say we would inspect our tot lots, make sure they're safe. If there's a tot lot where there's a safety problem, we remove the hazard and don't replace it. But we need a plan. We can't keep, this is over $900,000. And we need a plan to figure out, as I said, it's just my opinion, but I still don't believe a community of 100,000 needs 173 tot lots. But we just need a plan. We can't just be spending this much money not knowing where we're headed with this, because we have improved tot lots at some large dollar figures. Alan just mentioned that right now this number represents $45,000 per tot lot. We need a plan to figure out what we want, where we want to go with these tot lots.
Any further, Nancy?
Is there a plan? I mean,
No, we need to develop one. Basically, what I said, what I'm requesting, what I think we should do is that make sure we inspect the tot lots. We have already invested in some, so we don't have to inspect those, but anyone where there's a concern, we do the inspection, we correct the hazard, but we don't put the dollars in to refurbish them until we get a plan in to know, an overall plan to look at the tot lots.
So is this something you're going to do, or do you have to be directed by the board?
No, this is something I'm putting on the table to the board.
So let me remind the board that tot lots is one of those things we said that we would like to look at this year, along with, the Haven, Fairway Hills, Long Reach Village Center, neighborhood centers. We're working, we're going to try to work down that list. We got Haven, got neighborhood centers. So I hear the board that you want to address it, and we'll try to get it this year. Alan.
You may have already answered this, but I want to just ask it directly. Could we make these tot lots safe without removing a lot of stuff at a lower figure?
You could remove the stuff and take it out of service, but so we're not taking, if a wood swing is in good condition, we're not just going out and creating a new fall zone. It's only if the wood swing is so deteriorated that it can't be used. There's a T-bar across the top, and then the post, and both of them tend to rot. It'll be an interesting process. I was out in Harper's Choice today, and there are 2 tot lots behind the Fall River community, and I could hit a golf ball between them, and I'm terrible. I mean, they're so close you can see them, and there's not much to either one of those tot lots. So we do desperately need a plan. I recognize that, and I wasn't proposing any work there, but you walk out there and you go, well, this doesn't make any sense. You can literally see them clearly, and I could throw a baseball between them.
Sorry.
So, point of information, can we put money into 2021 to cover repairs that have to do with safety, and take it out of 2022 until we have some idea of what our plan is going to be? Because to park all of this money in these 2 years doesn't seem to make much sense.
So remember what we said last time was Columbia-wide tot lot renovations pending the CA board approval of the tot lot policy. So before they can spend this money, we have to approve a policy.
What I'm saying is I don't think the money may not represent what needs to be done based on what the policy is.
Right.
So this is over $900,000. So why don't we put in half so that we know we have something there for ongoing repairs until we get to do this policy? And you know that if we don't do it now, it will go into the next year. Then it has to come up on our agenda. So we're talking, let's be realistic about this and put something in there just to be spent on whatever safety repairs need to be done. As Ginny was saying, you take something out if it's not safe, but you don't move to do a whole big thing until we know what that general policy is going to look like.
Dick?
Well, once again, this is a placeholder, and if we come up with a terrific plan for what we're going to be doing with the tot lots, and we're going to be doing it in fiscal year 2021, and we've taken that money out of the budget, we're going to have to find it someplace. So it makes more sense to leave the money in there for now, and as we get a plan, we can then adjust that figure. And it's 2 years off.
All right, hearing no, oh, sorry, Renee.
I'm baffled because this is Columbia, and I thought we were here for the families. I don't know what our tot lot policy is going to be. I think we need one. I don't know if I like the intergenerational idea. The golf ball thing is a problem, I get that. But this is something that we provide that every resident, regardless of income, can walk to, play on, sit there with their child, converse with their neighbor. And I think to take these placeholders out for either year would be a mistake.
All right, I'd like to call the Jenny.
All right, well, just a quick question. Part of the study we're doing in Oakland Mills is there's a camera on every tot lot, and you would be surprised at the lack of activity on a lot of the tot lots. So you'll see that data. But anyway, okay.
Okay, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor, so the motion is Columbia-wide tot lot renovation pending CA board approval of the tot lot policy. That's how it's written. All those in favor? All those opposed? Janet is opposed. Okay. All right. So now we move on to the operating budget. So the first one up is item number 4 on our operating budget. It's 3-8, page 3-8. It's community outreach position for diverse communities.
I'll speak to it.
All right, is there a motion to include that money in the budget?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Nancy's making the motion. Is there a second? Just so we can discuss it. Is there a second?
So they can discuss it. Somebody just say,
Shari
I wish
will.
I could second my own.
No, Shari
now
did it.
come
All right,
on.
discussion.
Yeah.
Shari, I know she had her hand up, and then Jenny.
Yeah, just a point of information. Didn't we change the wording here?
I didn't have anything in my notes.
We had a discussion.
Didn't
We,
Okay.
my notes were about that this is not just going to be focused on the Asian community, but
Yes.
that it was going to be broader. So what is that new language? Do we have that?
This position was never going to be focused solely on the Asian community. The way it was written was that the Asian community would be the first priority because they are the fastest growing demographic. However, it's not going to be only the Asian community that this will be focused on.
We took it out.
Janet.
No, Jenny was next.
No, Janet can
No, it's fine. I just need to get in the queue. That's all.
Go ahead, Janet.
All right, Janet, and then Dick, and then Jenny.
So I actually had someone reach out to me recently regarding the Hispanic community, and she's had some involvement. But what she was saying was that a lot of times, like, even if we put materials out in Spanish, it's not always reaching our desired audience. And so I'm wondering, maybe the Asian community is the fastest growing, but I'm wondering what the largest community is. And I feel like that's maybe where we should be starting in terms of.
Certainly, all of that can be worked out. If this additional hours, I don't know whether or not I'll be adding additional duties to someone's job description or hiring another part-time person. All that has to be worked out. My first intent is to just get the money in the budget, and then I'll work out the details of how this position will actually be handled in terms of hours. Will it be an existing position with more hours, or I have to go hire someone? And then we'll look in terms of the demographics, what currently our programs are in terms of who we've reached out to already, what contacts we have in the community already, and look at the low-hanging fruit, and perhaps we can draw them in. And then we'll work with various programs to ensure that we're holistically looking at the demographics of Columbia to ensure that the largest community and those that are underserved are going to be, outreach to.
Dick?
Actually, we had quite a lively conversation about this, and one of the things we agreed to do, as I recall, was take out the requirement that this person speak either Korean or Chinese.
Right.
And I think, as I recall the conversation we had, the idea was to have someone on staff, not of any specific ethnic group, but someone who could reach out to the various communities in our community and find people who would represent those communities and bring them in, and so we have more of an all-encompassing rather than focusing on any particular branch or starting with any particular branch. We have a big community with probably people speaking hundreds of different languages. You're familiar with that. And we want to make sure that we reach out to everyone and try to bring everyone into the community.
And this position is only 10 to 15 hours a week, so I need to start somewhere.
Well, that would be where we'd start, with somebody on your staff who could focus on finding who would be good representatives in those communities too.
Milton?
Yeah, just to let you know, it's only been a week between the budget work session last week, and so we haven't gone through and changed all. You're correct. We the board talked about it. I mean, the decision was made not to be specific to any group. We want this position to be a proactive as for CA, reaching out to the diversity of our community, and as opposed to having groups come to us. But yes, we will change the language. It was intended. It will be taken out when we finalize the budget document.
Thank you.
Jenny?
Yeah. I know this is a losing battle, but I'll just state my position again like I did a week ago. First of all, I don't get the 10 to 15 hours. You want 25,000, so we should know whether it's 10 or 15 based on the hourly rate. Is it 10 or 15 extra hours?
If it's extra hours, it may be 15 hours. I'm asking for $25,000 to be split up between resources, to have items translated into various languages, for outreach tables, for different events.
Okay,
and
got it.
then,
So it's not just staff?
No.
It's supplies. Okay, my question is, again, we have a full-time person that's working with how many sister cities? 10? 5. We only have 5 sister cities?
That's enough, Jay.
Okay, I just hatched another 5, so we only have 5. All right.
You just cut that budget in half. No.
Yeah, I succeeded in that. And that person, I mean, from what I understand, is doing a phenomenal job. We are reaching a lot of people in the community, a diverse population in the community. That's wonderful, and that's 40 hours a week, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then we have another person part-time. I don't know whether that was in the budget last year or the year before. Do you know when that was added to the budget?
Probably the year before.
Okay, and that's 15 hours a week?
Correct.
So we have 55 hours a week of people working with the diverse community in Columbia. They also have available to them lots of organizations that I'm sure they know about and are working with, like Fern and the church groups, blah, 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 okay? So I'm sure these two people are experts. That's 55 hours a week.
Not a lot of time.
We already have,
Okay, come on.
we already
let
have
Jenny
people
finish.
working, and I think we're just building a bureaucracy, adding another person 15 or 10 hours, whatever. I don't get it, I really don't.
This position may be adding additional hours to that 15-hour-a-week person to make that person a 25 to 30-hour-a-week person, or it may be a new person. I don't know yet.
Well, my point is,
Those
how many hours
conversations
we
have
gonna
not been had
spend?
with my staff until this is passed
Yeah,
in the
but we've got experts in Fern, I'd pay a finder's fee or something. But anyway, okay.
Alan.
So
and
you
then
answered,
Milton.
you answered my first question, which is this is not just for salary, because 10 hours, if it was 40 hours, make $100,000, that felt like a lot for one position.
It's not just for one position, it includes other things. You
okay,
just-
That's
let
what I said,
Nan-
it
let
answered
Alan
my
finish.
question. So I'm okay with that. I would just say that for me, what I'm hearing a lot about and what we've typically focused on is nationality. And to me, that's just one dimension of diversity. And if we're truly talking about reaching out to the whole diversity of our community, nationality is only a piece of it. And I think we have fallen down on the job over the years, not seeing this as more than just international, multicultural.
Milton.
I just wanted to quickly respond to Jenny. We just wanted to get the dollars in the budget. We can go the path of adding additional hours, but it's dollars to do multiple different things, including possibly adding hours to existing staff or even a new person. But all the things you mentioned, firm, is part of us being proactive in making that outreach. Right now, we're not doing that.
Well, 55 hours a week, we should be.
Okay, Lynn?
Yeah, I would just say, just to emphasize that point, look around this room. We need to do a lot of work.
Okay. Any further discussion? I'm going to call the question with the understanding, as Milton said, that you will make sure that that language is removed about the specific language.
Specific nationalities.
All right. Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, passes. Ginny. All right, next one is temporary funding for the Arts Festival. $100,000 is page 3-10. Is there a motion? Dick moved.
Wait, what is this? What do you?
This is this.
Downtown Columbia Partnership.
No. This is the Columbia Festival of the Arts.
Oh.
This is a $100,000 Columbia Festival of the Arts. Dick moved and Lynn seconded. All right, discussion. Alan.
I'm more likely to be in favor of this if it's truly for what it says, that it's focused on that free 3-day downtown arts event. And I guess maybe I've just been ignorant of how this all works, but it's never been clear to me that that's a separate piece or that we are somehow more in charge of that or promote it. Just so anyway.
Michelle, can you address
explain
that?
Yes. Part of the agreement or stipulation going back 30 years with the Festival of the Arts is that CA will contribute to have a free downtown arts event, whether that is a 3-day event at the lakefront, whether that is multiple different events happening perhaps in the future at the Chrysalis, at Merriweather, at schools. But basically, it is for the free events during that 2-week session that CA will pay for. Not for the ticketed events, not to bring in, to subsidize any of that. So my conversation with David Phillips is that the 3-day event costs about $300,000. Thank you, David. Yeah, $300,000 for the the 3 days. So CA's contribution for the 3 days would be 100,000. That's what we're requesting.
Janet, oh, then Renee, I'm sorry.
I'm just curious why we call it temporary.
I-
Don't we fund it every year?
Right. We put temporary because the Festival of the Arts is one of the entities that are part of the merger conversation. And so that's why it's in there temporary, because if the Festival of Arts become one of the entities emerged that creates the new Downtown Columbia Arts and Culture Commission, it would be a different arrangement.
So if we approve this and they merge, can we re-decide on this money? Or does
Well,
it
I
go
don't
with
think
them?
the merge, it would impact. This is for the FY '21.
This is for this coming June.
Yeah, so they'd have to commit the money. Renee and then Nancy.
So I just want to make sure I'm clear. So the Festival of the Arts goes for almost 2 weeks, and then what we're doing is subsidizing a 3-day period during that time. And I like the arts, so I'm all in for that. I guess the one caveat is that I think that as an entity, we need to do a better job of trying to bring in a more diverse community in Columbia into the program. And I don't know how we do that, but if you could just put that in the back of your mind for later, I'd be glad to meet with you about it.
Thank you. I'll work with David on that. I know that the festival over the years has been working to bring diverse entertainment and local entertainment, and Dave's really done a wonderful job in the past few years.
Yeah, no, it's not the entertainment. I think we have to figure out a way to better advertise in the communities that we want to draw in. That's what I would like to try to figure out.
Sure.
Nancy.
Yeah, there was discussion when we talked about this last week, felt like a month ago, where we said that they wanted the festival to promote CA more, but there is a big sign that says Columbia Association. We also have a very large booth there promoting CA. So I think they do a fine job promoting the Columbia Association as one of their major sponsors for this event. And as I said last week, I would give them even more.
Shari.
I think it's the biggest the biggest Columbia people event of the year, and personally, I just love it.
Shari.
Well, I love it too. I just wanted to ask, when it says logistical support from CA's open space, so that is support that we give in kind to set up, is that just for the 3 days?
I believe so, yes. This request is just for the 3 days.
Okay, so really, it's more than $100,000 if we include that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, but this would be the dollars that would affect the budget would be $100,000.
Okay, so I just want to make that point because we often don't bring that into our thinking, that when we have CA open space people doing stuff at Chrysalis and doing stuff at Wine in the Woods, and we've had a lot of people, very intensive work that our open space people doing, and we're contributing that. So it's not just the dollars. I'm all in support of this dollar amount because I think it is very important to provide free and low cost type of activities. That's very much what Columbia is about. But just for our own purposes, it would be wonderful to see what that actually works out to be one of these days. I'd love to see just some figures on that.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, I'm going to call a question. All those in favor of the temporary funding for the Arts Festival? Unanimous. Good, thank you. All right, next one is temporary funding for Downtown Columbia Partnership, item 3-12. Is there a motion to include this in the budget? Lynn, is there a second? I'll second it because otherwise we're not going to get discussion. All right, discussion. Janet, Jenny, Lynn.
So while I am not opposed to the mission of the Downtown Columbia Partnership and I support it, I am very opposed to the level of funding that CA is providing with absolutely no real representation other than an ex officio member for the board. So in the past, Howard Hughes has paid the majority, and they've had 4 board seats. When we approved this 3 years ago, we requested additional board seats, and we were told that we would be considered, and then we never heard anything about it. And it probably wouldn't have come up again if I hadn't been reading the Downtown Columbia Partnership's annual report and realized that that situation never changed. So then the situation is that the county somehow gets to decide who gets the board seats when we are the majority funder. And that's the part I'm not understanding. So if the county would like to fund, then by all means, they should be able to assign those board seats. But if we are the majority funder, then I'm not understanding why we don't have more representation on that board.
Ginny, and then Lynn and Dick.
Just quickly, this board started funding this in FY19?
No, 16.
16.
Oh, so it's more than
It's
1
3
million.
years overdue.
This would be the 4th year.
Okay, and we're also, from what I understand, they're expecting we'd fund it at the same level in 23 and 24.
Right.
So that's a lot of money, over $1 million something. A couple of things. One, I am not sure that I completely agree that the mission makes any sense to a certain extent. I think there's a lot of, in my mind, duplication of what economic development in the county does, what the businesses do for themselves, and what the Arts Council does, and what the county, and there seems to be confusion, at least I haven't gotten a straight answer on what is the Downtown Partnership's real role in terms of transportation planning, and what is the county's role, and actually in providing the transportation, who's really going to do that. So to me, it's probably a smarter idea to have the transportation planning, frankly, done by the county and maybe get the state involved and consultants. So I don't see any real role for this group. And $200,000 when we have a lot of residents asking for a lot of other things. I opposed it 2 years ago. I'm still going to oppose it. The other possibility is that it be a grant and they repay us when they get all this money from the SEPA or whatever, that they repay CA for all the money it has put out to keep them going is something that I would love to see. But I honestly think, maybe a lower amount, 50 grand, but certainly not $200,000 for the next 4 years.
Lynn.
There's a lot that goes on downtown. There's a lot of coordination. We give money every year to our village centers. This is like a village center on steroids right now. The downtown Columbia needs to be successful. The coordination of the media, the coordination of just the message, the events is very, very important to downtown. Downtown Partnership meets like weekly with various groups. Eventually, $9.77 million extra dollars will come into CA's coffers as a result of the downtown redevelopment. We're pre-servicing, and I have no problem with that. We pre-serviced all of Columbia's villages, and that helped them grow. We're pre-servicing downtown with the Downtown Partnership, and it will pay us back. We'll have far more money back than we're ever putting in right now.
Alan.
I agree with
then
Ginny.
Milton.
I agree with Ginny and Lynn, and for the record, we do not give our village centers money. We pass through money that is their assessment that we happen to hold first, but we don't give them money. Not at all, and I think that's a false comparison.
Milton and Dick?
The first point, Janet, the Columbia Association is not the largest funder of the partnership. The SEPA dollars are the largest funders.
Not yet, they aren't.
Yes, they are.
Well,
If
that
you
was
look
a
at the
list in an
dollars,
annual
there's a
report.
SEPA dollars there. Howard Hughes's dollars have dropped, the direct contributions have dropped off as they paid more and more into the SEPA. So their dollars is just going, as opposed to directly to the partnership, now it goes into the SEPA. And Howard Hughes is the
Can you tell me how much comes in from the SEPA?
the numbers for 2020, I think, is $235,000.
We're pretty close.
We're pretty close, yeah.
But the whole intent was that the partnership, once Howard Hughes hit 500,001 square feet of commercial space, they no longer will have a majority seat on the partnership board. That number looks like it's going to happen with the transition happening in the first quarter of 2020. And it's always has been written in the downtown plan that the county executive, with approval, with affirmation or not from the county council, would choose those 7 board members on the partnership. That's been there since 2010.
Well, okay, that's fine, but I just don't agree with it.
Okay, I'm Dick, Nancy, Ginny.
Well, I think it is, we really did get it handed to us on this representation on the board. We've got one member on this board. It's really been Howard Hughes's board, and they've used that to their own advantage in things like letters to the county council regarding development issues that they'd like favored in their interest. And that we talk about SEPA money, that is money that Hughes would ordinarily be paying in taxes. So that's really not a
No,
huge.
it's not. It's additional to taxes. It's in addition to the taxes, the property taxes they pay.
Well, we can get into some further discussion on that. My concern is how much representation we're going to have on the board. And I'd like to see that resolved before we start committing money to this. I'm going to suggest this might be something we want to table until we get a better understanding of what our representation is, and then we make our contribution in relationship to that representation.
Nancy and then Ginny.
I would like to see their budget before I vote on this. I would like to know where their money goes. I spoke with someone this week who probably called a number of board members, kind of lobbying on behalf of the partnership. And she explained to me that we were never promised the seats on the board. I had the understanding too that we were going to be getting additional seats. So I guess I was somehow misinformed based on what I was told. But I have a problem also with this level of contribution, and without seeing their budget, I cannot support this another year.
Ginny.
Okay, I keep hearing that CA is benefiting from all the development downtown. Yes.
Eventually.
No, I mean, our revenue, yes. But I don't tie that necessarily with the downtown partnership and our $200,000 we're paying. It's going to happen anyway. Same as in Gateway, if that develops, other places that have developed, the Crossroads, all these places. We get the money because of development. And the county gets money too because of the development, and the county is putting in 0 funds to this downtown partnership. Yet they are going to have more seats than we will. So we either condition this on no money is spent until we get an additional seat for a board member to be on it, or we don't approve it at all, or we make it a grant that they have to pay back. So
If I may,
I won't say any more on this issue.
Jenny, the county only has 1 seat on the partnership board, and that's one of the 4 ex officio seats. That's the only seat that the county has on.
But the county executive will be appointing 2?
The county executive appoints, with the exception,
two
with the
people.
exception of the four, the county executive and the county council appoints and confirms the other three.
Of the three, and let's face it, to me, that's their seats. If they pick the people,
They're not,
nominate them and
they're
appoint
not
them.
picking them, they're confirming. It's just like going on any board, they're not.
Yeah, I mean, it's how the law's written now, so I mean, it's not
No,
going
no.
to suddenly change.
But guys, I know that
but-
process, I took part in it, and you select somebody that you think will vote the way you want. That's what the process is, and then you confirm them because you think they're going to vote the way you want. That's what politics is all about.
Right, but
So that's
how-
why I say they have more seats than we do.
Right, but that's how the law's written, and there's no way to change the law in
Yes,
the
you
next
can
couple
change
of
the
years.
law.
Not quickly.
Yes, you can.
I think,
No.
You could-
if I'm
Sorry.
being recognized, thank you. I think one of the other things that Jenny alluded to, which we also brought up last time, and I asked about, is what is the role of the county Office of Economic Development?
And
And so
transportation.
somehow I feel that at this point, we have really helped to get this thing started. The developer, the major amount of money that is going to flow to the developer. That's why they're here. And I'm really hoping that the success of downtown flows to everyone, including CA, and I think that's great. But if this is redevelopment and it's important to the county, then the Office of Development ought to be involved in it. And CA has so many other pressing issues right now with our facilities, our maintenance, the things that our residents are eager to ask for, the things that they're depending on us to continue to provide. So I'm a little disturbed by the amount of money that is going here, because in essence, what's happening in reality with our budgets is that this money is going there, and it's not going to some other community organizations that have somehow dropped by the wayside. And that, I think, is a real concern.
Bingo.
I apologize, I was confusing SEPA with TIF. It's TIF that redirects their tax money. SEPA is just a cost of doing business. It's basically being spent as a marketing cost by Howard Hughes and to promote their properties. And I wish them well. I think they're doing a great job, but I don't think it's our business to be advertising their properties. It's their business, and it's a cost of doing business. So I will correct my
Yeah, I think
misstatement.
we should, I could call for the vote, or are we gonna?
Oh, well, I'd like the chance. I mean, I would like to just to say that I think this is worthwhile because I think it fits in with CA. This is an organization that was founded by the legislation from the downtown Columbia. And it's going to grow, especially as the SEPA money start coming in. And it's going to be a very important organization for downtown. It does a lot of events right now, as we've alluded, the Books in Bloom, the festive holidays, festive Fridays. And you can see where it's going to grow in the future, and it's an organization that CA really needs to partner with, because it is going to be a major organization downtown. So, I mean, I think that it is a wise use of our money for kind of forward funding this until the SEPA's. Dick?
Can I propose an amendment?
Sure.
And that would be to reduce the amount to $100,000 and make that contingent on discovering just what the new board's going to look like and additional information.
Okay, so Dick has made a motion, an amendment. Nancy?
I'd like to add to that amendment that we also see their budget.
Can't add
Can you-
to it until it gets seconded.
Can you add that to your motion?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I said,
All
I
right,
said
good.
additional
second that
information, and that would certainly be additional.
All right.
I'm sorry,
So,
Dick.
so
Could you
let me
s-
see if I can summarize this. Your amendment, $100,000, right?
Right.
See the budget and see the new board, right? Those are the,
That'd be contingent is what.
right, on those $100,000 and,
Point of clarity, does C simply mean C, or does C mean we would then vote yes or no to approve based on what we see?
Oh, yes,
Be contingent.
contingent,
upon seeing and approving, or,
We use the word approving.
reviewing, right.
Reviewing and
well,
approving.
Let's,
just seeing it means, here, I showed you my budget,
Right,
now you have to
right.
give us the money,
Right.
regardless of what the budget shows. So we want it to
so,
be.
so the way we usually do this is the money can't be spent until the CA board authorizes it to be spent. That's the normal way we do these things, and I think that's what the sense I get. But $100,000 contingent on
Approving.
board approval, based on looking at two things, the composition of the board and the budget, right?
But that's not clear.
That's not.
What do you mean
I'm
by
not-
composition
exactly,
of the board?
Exactly. I'm sorry, I'm not clear on what we mean by composition of the board either. I think we have to be clear that it means that the legislation will be changed, which can be done in a couple of months. It's not difficult by the county. That will have one of the members will be a member of the CA board, and the board will select that member itself. We've got to be very clear or specific about what we want. And if they don't want to meet that demand, they don't want the 100,000. Frankly, I think we should vote no for the whole thing, but okay.
Dick, you
We'll
would.
get it over with.
When
Or we get lobbied to death.
I said approval of the board,
Yeah.
I don't want to, I think it's premature. I think they could come up with members who are not necessarily members of our board, but who are people in the community who we're comfortable with, or confident in. But, so, let's look at what the decision is on how they want to compose a new board, and we'll factor that in as we decide.
Right, who the three new members will be. And that has to be a public process too.
Yeah.
Because it's got to go. All right, so that's the amendment. I think I got it. Alan?
Yeah, I'm pretty much where Ginny is, so I'm not sure how I'm going to vote on the amendment, but I don't think we need to be specific, though, about what we want. We can talk about what we want, and then they'll come up with something, and we'll see if we approve it. I would also point out that we right now have no representatives on their board, because the one person who does come from this board on their board says that they don't represent this board when they're on that board. They represent that board and not this board. So we have no person who's representing CA on that board.
Okay, so any further discussion on the amendment? So once again, I'll go on the amendment. $100,000, contingent on board approval, and what the board would like to see as part of that approval process is the budget and who is on the new board, correct?
Right.
Got that?
Yeah.
All right.
Just last question, last point.
All right.
I think it's a good attempt at a compromise, but I think it's too iffy. So I'm going to
Okay,
vote no on the amendment. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to call the vote on the amendment. All those in favor? Okay, this one I got to, okay, well, wow, I got to work. All right, Dick, Nancy, Lynn, Andy. Opposed? Shari.
Whoops.
Singleton. Janet. Jenny. Renee. Alan, right? All right, the motion fails on the amendment. I'm going to call the question on the actual original motion. Nope, I'm sorry, yes.
I think we were moving in the right direction. And I'd like to make a motion that the amount of funding be reduced to $100,000 so that we are having it for the first year. and that the second year be left open.
All right, Sherry's making that motion.
But can we leave
And-
in the other contingencies, or at least the budget contingency? As a friendly amendment to your amendment?
I would go with the review of the budget.
Okay.
Yes.
So $100,000 for fiscal year '21, and then the rest of the money is contingent upon board?
No,
The
no.
money, any money in '22 is contingent? No.
No,
Okay,
in 100,000 for fiscal year 21,
yes.
nothing for 22 at this time. It's
Okay.
open. But for 21, am I speaking
Yes,
correctly?
yes, so far.
And,
Okay.
and for 21, it's contingent upon approval of the CA board, it's contingent upon the CA board approving the budget. Or
No,
or
we can't approve the budget.
Review
Reviewing.
of their budget.
and accepting their budget.
Okay, reviewing the budget.
And
what
and there's
about
no
board?
conditions about
Review
a
does
board
mean
member
it's-
being on there?
We would have a vote, not just we get to review
Well,
it.
that's what I'm saying,
Yes.
accepting.
Might as well table it.
Yes.
And what about their board?
Until you see
Okay.
the budget.
Well, I don't care about the board.
Okay,
I
okay.
accept the amendment to review and
How
approve.
about the board will, I mean, it's contingent on board vote, and one of the things the board wants to see as part of their discussion is the budget.
Yes.
How about that? Because that way we still have to take a vote.
Okay.
But we're not, I mean,
Okay.
because we can't approve their budget. I mean,
Yes,
there's no way.
yes,
Well, I
okay,
meant-
okay.
All right, so what I have is $100,000 in '21, no money in '22, and it's contingent upon board approval, and part of that is receiving their budget, correct?
Correct.
That's for the 100,000.
100.
I
Yeah.
just want to make sure.
Is
I
100,000.
just,
All right, so that was Sherry and Nancy, right? Yes.
Well, it was Sherry. I just helped.
Oh, all right, is it, okay.
Yeah.
Well, so I need a
There
second.
I think there needs to be, I made
Okay,
a motion. so I
right,
think
Lynn
there
will
needs to be
second
some-
it.
Oh,
Any
I'll
discussion,
second.
all those in
A
favor?
quick discussion.
Sure.
Would it be better at this point to table it until we see the budget and we know whether we're really going to vote or not, and then decide how much? Because right now I might move to lower to 50,000, but without seeing the budget, it's sort of a guessing game.
So remember, what we're trying to do is telling staff kind of what the stuff they have to include in the budget. And if we don't give them anything in the budget, then they're not going to show up at all in the budget. And then we'd have to find money
They're
if
still
we
built in
wanted
the
to
budget.
Well-
put it back in. We can still,
Wait a minute,
Right.
with all due respect, we could just table it until a time certain, like the November board meeting. That staff just has to wait another 2 weeks then, or 3 weeks. It's not a big deal.
It's not
I'm-
final until February?
Yeah, so I mean,
So-
but we would make a decision in November based on seeing the budget. So
Okay,
it's not
we
like
have-
we're saying we'll wait till February. If we do it in November, staff still has plenty of time to put it in the budget or not put it in the
Out.
budget.
Alan.
Well, we're also now getting into the question of if it's in the budget, it's going to take
Yes.
6 votes to take
Yes.
it out,
Yes.
as versus 6 votes to put
Well,
it in.
except that it doesn't get spent until the board
As an
approves it. The board
as
has
an
to approve it.
affirmative.
And that approval has to be majority vote.
I agree with that.
Right.
So
Because we're putting a contingent, just like we put contingencies on others. All right, I'm going to call the question on the amendment, $100,000, board approval, looking at the budget, nothing in '22. All those in favor of that amendment? All right, Dick, Sherry,
No.
Nancy, Lynn, Andy.
No,
We only have 4.
Dick's
Oh,
no.
Dick's not, I'm sorry.
no, I can't do that without the,
Okay, Dick,
Approval of the-
Shari, Nancy, sorry. Shari, Nancy,
Lynn,
Lynn,
Andy.
Andy. All those opposed? Alan,
wow.
Renee,
You guys are tough.
Dick.
I want that board.
Janet, and Jenny. All right, motion fails. All right,
I move we table this to, wait a minute, maybe forget it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, there's
Never
no
mind,
sense
never
in-
mind, I'm
there's
not
no
gonna
sense in
move
tabling
anything.
this. All right, I'll call the question on the original motion, which is the 200,000, 200,000. All those in favor? Andy and Lynn. All those opposed? Dick, Shari, Nancy, Janet, Ginny, Renee, and Alan. Okay, motion fails. All right, now we're going on to the next one, last one. Funding for Inner Arbor Trust. It's 3-14, page 3-14, it's 183,000. Is there a motion? Inner Arbor Trust.
I move.
I'll
that
second.
we-
Okay, and Lynn
Janet se-
seconded? Oh,
Janet
Janet
seconded,
seconded, sorry.
Janet seconded.
All right. Any discussion? Alan, Dick.
Yeah. I still think, and I've had discussions with the chair of their board, I've had discussions with their president, and I still believe that the basically giving away of CA's land, possibly our most precious land, to a permanent easement, perpetual easement, particularly as poor a one as that one is, in terms of what we basically have abdicated on our property, is the single most horrible thing I've seen the CA board do in all the years I've been following CA. That said, I'm very impressed with the way that the Inner Arbor Corporation, which I wish you'd all stop calling it a trust because it's not. It's in its name, but it's not a trust. That I'm impressed with the programming. And I really believe, as I have maintained for several years now, that there's room for compromise. There's room for arts around in the Chrysalis specifically, that area, have the Inner Arbor folks, specifically Nina, do the programming, but bring the rest of the land back into CA's control. I think it would give one less party to some of these negotiations that we're talking about. It would ensure more community control because we as a board are voted on by the public. I would support the programming of the Chrysalis becoming a department of CA and hiring Nina to do that programming. I think she's done a great job.
Except she'd make less money.
But I am just absolutely not in favor. I can't support putting money into this organization to keep it going, to maintain an organization that's not able to manage the rest of it, doesn't have the funds or the plan to manage the rest of the property. And the rest of the property is something that we know how to do. We know how to create a park that's usable by people.
Dick.
Well, the premise that the easement was sold to us on was that Michael McCall was going to raise $30 million and build a park. And fortunately, he was not able to raise that money because it was a horrible idea for a park. But now we are in a situation where year after year, we are subsidizing this organization, which was supposed to be self-supporting. And I agree with Alan. I think Nina has done an incredible job salvaging the wreckage of that original organizational proposal. And I would like to I would like to support the programs that they are putting on. But I can't see that we have an ongoing responsibility to take care of their operating expenses. They were supposed to be self-sufficient. And they tell us that in another year or two, they can support themselves. And I would like to see a strategic plan explaining what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, where the money is going to come from, And I've been requesting this for years now, and I've never gotten that plan. I have never seen a strategic plan that shows how Inner Harbor is going to become self-sufficient. I can't vote in favor of this until I see some kind of a plan. Otherwise, we're just going to be shoveling money in that direction for years. And this money we're talking about here is only a piece of it. We're spending $500,000 on pathways, which is fine. I like having a pathway so people aren't trampling the grass on our land. But no, they're going to have to come up with a plan to become self-sufficient.
Any further discussion? Lynn?
Now, the Inner Arbor Trust and CA working together. We are a creation of CA. And as a creation of CA, we, as a 501c3, we have been enabled to get public money in support of the park, money that CA could not have gotten itself. The Chrysalis, again, a monument to that. It built mostly with county money, $6.3 million of county money, 1.6 of CA money. CA, yes, is generously funding the CA path. The county has committed more money to another path. We are able to bring assets to the land that are greater than what CA is contributing at this point. We are working with CA to create an environment for the community. We are able to partner with so many different parts of the community to bring special programs, variety of programs, variety of experiences. It's not free. It's partnered with people. We're bringing people into Columbia, into the downtown. We're giving them things that they'll remember all their lives. That's a very special kind of thing. I think it's really critical to keep supporting the trust. It's still in its infancy. We're toddlers, but we're growing. We're able, hopefully, again, and when you see our Ice and Fire this winter, our new winter program, we have significant partnerships in that already. We are going to be bringing something truly fantastic and delightful to the community at very low cost that will hopefully become a community event that people will remember year after year after year. You know, this is something very special. This is a partnership with CA. It is something that deserves to be supported.
Any further discussion? If not, I'll call on Dick.
Well, this is not a creation of CA. It's a creation of some county politicians who are no longer around. It's a creation of the current management of Meriwether Pavilion. It's a creation of a former board member who is now IMA's lawyer. So we really have to start thinking, what is the long-term thing there? There currently is a proposal to merge a lot of these organizations, and maybe when that happens, we'll be able to revisit this whole program. But I am saying that maybe we should make a contribution to the specific programs that Nina has put together. I'd be delighted to do that, but the operating costs really should be the responsibility of the organization.
Nancy?
The Inner Arbor Trust has brought people to an empty park that hadn't been used for 50 years. It went through some very serious struggles initially, but I think that with Nina and with Lynn's guidance, it has shown what a tremendous asset it is to the community. And when we go to the concerts there in the woods or even on the stage, it's a delightful place and a delightful time, and this is for families, people of all ages, and I think it's a tremendous asset to our community, and I fully support it.
Alan and Shari.
Yeah, I would just say that everything that you just mentioned could have been done by CA. It didn't require a and other organizations. So it's sort of like saying.
What's was.
We created a problem and now it's getting better. We could have been better all along.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think we have all seen the response of the community, and what I've seen in particular and what I've heard from the Millennials group is that this is a place that people are really seeing in a new light. I think we have to look to the future. I think we have to see, what are the possibilities there? Does this have a possibility of growing and nurturing new generations into Columbia? I think the answer is a resounding yes. And I'm fully in favor of funding the $183,000. Thank you. $1,000. When we think of other areas that we subsidize, when you think of the thousands of people who have come to the park and enjoyed that myriad of programs cutting across all age groups, that's a great asset.
All right, hearing no further discussion, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Shari, Nancy, Lynn, Janet, Jenny, Andy, Renee. All those opposed? Dick and Alan. Okay. All right, that is it for the budget. We've given staff their directions. So we're off. Next up is Haven on the Lake.
What about,
Oh, sorry. Oh, wait a minute. You
The
wanted to do,
elevator.
yeah. All right, quick.
Excuse me.
Sorry. I'm sorry, forgot. Quick. Yes, Nancy, you wanted to talk about increase in the annual assessment.
Oh, yes.
We can't do that.
Sure I can.
Not tonight.
Now,
We're not voting on it tonight, but we're talking about it
Well-
tonight.
right, do you want to make a motion or
We can make a
something?
motion.
I move that we add to the agenda tonight, I'm too late, but that we discuss changing the assessment cost by 1 penny from 68 to 69 cents, costing the average homeowner $20 a year, but bringing CA $500,000 a year, which will help fund a number of items that we are desperate to fund. At the same time, we have climate change issues that we have not even approached. So, yeah, that's it.
Is there a second to that? Sorry, second. All right. What's the motion? Discussion. Alan, well, okay, Alan. Yep. I'm just trying to work this.
Yeah, I think we have been remiss in all the years that I've been on the board in not really taking this question up seriously. We always just have done a pro forma vote at the beginning saying, what are the parameters? Oh, no, we can't touch the assessment rate. That would raise too much ruckus in the community. And we go along with the same parameters year after year. And I think we need, I'd want to do it with a full and robust, not just communication effort with the community, but two-way communication effort with the community so that we are giving people an opportunity to play with the budget, to say if we added this to it, what would that do? Because if we, and what it is we're planning on doing with the money or could do with the money, because without it, yeah, we're either saying taking your money for no good reason, or we aren't giving you any say in, or we can be everything to everybody. Oh, you want this, you want that, we'll do this, we'll do neighbors, we'll do tot lots, we'll do, and that's not sustainable. So we need the community's buy-in, and the only way to do that is to have a real robust community, not just education, not just tell them effort, but a real robust community engagement.
Milton and then Dick, and then Char.
My only request of the board, and when you have your conversation about this, as I've said to you before, please don't have it in a vacuum. Columbia is part of Howard County. Howard County has one of the highest personal income taxes in the state of Maryland, has one of the highest property taxes in the state of Maryland. You just had the current report, so we should not be making the decision in a vacuum, because the individuals who are within the boundaries of the Columbia Association are also residents of Howard County.
Dick, and then Shari, and then Nancy.
I am going to vote against having further discussion at this time because we have not shown that we need $500,000 more. We just saved ourselves $200,000 with the last vote. So let's take a look at the whole overall budget, and you know, in a couple of months when everything has fallen into shape, let's see if we have a problem, and also let's prepare the community for it. I think we got to be careful about how we start these discussions. I know on the Haven, for example, I've gotten letters from people thinking that we decided to shut it down. And I had to tell them, no, we never even thought of that. And now, if we start this discussion, all of a sudden there's going to be a big buzz around the community that we're raising the rates. One of the things when I was running for office, and I would talk to people about what they wanted and what their interests were, the one thing I heard almost unanimously is, I'll vote for you if you don't raise my rates. So I think this is a landmine here, and there's no need to enter that landmine unless we find we're in desperate situations.
Okay, Shari, and then Nancy.
Yeah, I'll just share two things with you in looking at this budget. Number one, when I talked to the folks on my village board, and I mentioned all the repairs, the maintenance, and all of that, and I posited, would you pay 1 penny more? Everybody looked at me and said, well, that was a no-brainer. Of course they would. So I thought that was very interesting, and I want to share that with you. They thought that what they would be getting was of value, and that was a very good piece of feedback for me to hear. The other thing that has me concerned as we look over the budget is when you talk about climate change and environmental vulnerability, one of the things that we don't have in the budget is any kind of line item that is there for a kind of climate emergency. And over this last year, we certainly had a situation with the tornado coming through that ended up costing CA, I think, open space was, Milton, was it almost $1 million to do that cleanup?
It was not $1 million.
That was the figure that I heard.
That was tree removal.
Tree removal.
Tree removal.
Right.
But that was
not just the tornado.
That was Emerald
That
Ash
was
Border.
from the tornado, which knocked down huge, huge trees all over the community and knocked down trees in other communities as well. This is just the tip of the iceberg. So I would, we don't have, so to speak, yeah. So we don't have to, we don't have to address that tonight. But as we are going forward in our budget discussions, somewhere along the line, I'd like us to figure out if there's some place that we can use as a placeholder. We have so many placeholders here. As a placeholder, so that we've got something there in case we need to pull from it.
Nancy.
I lost my thought, which is terrible,
Sorry.
because I really was thinking of a lot of things. One of them, just to speak to what Milton said, I'm not offering this in a vacuum. I'm offering this as $20 a year. We have people who have been promised a pool for 10 years, almost 10 years.
500,000 is not getting you there.
It's not going to get you there, but it'll get you closer. At least we can get the A&E drawings done, and we can start moving in that direction. And then when we're getting the money from these brand new buildings that are going up, we can give people a deduction. But at the same time, right now, when we need the money, we have so many demands on our budget. I think we're really foolish to not take this opportunity.
Ginny, Janet, and Lynn.
Yeah, one of the things that I kept hearing about our budget was more in line, and I don't want anybody on staff taking offense to this. I'm just sharing with what people, say. They've looked at the 990s. They're complaining about the salaries. They've looked at some of our facilities and say, why do you have, and I'm not going to mention the facilities, but why are you still running or something else? Why is CA is in that business? Why doesn't the board look at some of the things that you're doing and say it's no longer a product you should be delivering? Cut that, and that'll get you money. So there's different ways people look at our budget, and they were asking that we be more disciplined about cutting some of the things we're doing, yet they're supportive of other things. And I know everybody disagrees on what should be cut and what shouldn't,
Janet?
I would just like to point out that, $20 might not be a lot to a lot of people, but there are people in Columbia to whom $20 might mean something. And so for that reason, I can't support that without having a really dedicate, like if there's, we talk about value, but the value is different for everybody. So we may raise $500,000 and one person might agree with how we spend it and 10 more might disagree. And so it makes it really challenging to talk about value. I mean, I think CA does provide value, but I think we have to be super careful about how we decide to allocate that value and be really sensitive to income in our community.
All right, Lynn, and then Alan Dickin. We got to wrap this up because we're way over time, and we still got the Haven yet. We need to get done tonight.
Okay.
And the
All right.
pool discussion.
Well, yeah, but Haven comes next.
Alan, in this.
Lynn.
Yeah, I agree with Alan. I think this is something that should be a community, brought to the community. It's a good way. Again, we can involve our villages, we can involve the community, and know what we really want to do with it. Do we want, for instance, can we use this for the swimming pool? Is this a priority? If so, is a penny enough? We need to talk about it. So I would like to talk about it in our process for the next year.
Alan and then Dick.
Two small things. In addition to the non-vacuum that we're talking about this in, we are also the county with the highest per capita income in the state. So that's another piece of the environment we're in. And I'm very mindful, Janet, of the concern about not different amounts of money weigh differently. $20 is an average. And while the cost of or the assessed value of our home is not a direct 100% correlation to our income, I would venture to say the correlation is pretty close. That people with higher incomes tend to have more expensive houses, and people with lower income tend to have less expensive houses, so they would be spending less. Their increase would be less than the 20. It's not a $20 per person charge all the way across.
Dick.
The motion was to discuss this. We've discussed it, so I think it's time to move on.
All right, well then, I haven't had a chance. I want to say that, I got to agree with Dick and kind of what Lynn said is, this is not a topic I think we can take up in this budget cycle. Because we are too far along. We have to involve the community. This is not something we can sit down and especially because nobody even knows we're talking about this until tonight. I mean, talk about not being transparent to the community. This is a huge issue, and we didn't tell anybody we're going to talk about it. So, if we are going to do this, we have got to really plan this out. And it simply can't be done. But I'm going to call the vote.
I just want to say one thing.
Sure.
I did raise this in June.
Yep.
And
we
I
voted
asked
against
everybody for support for it.
Right, and we voted against it.
And I got nowhere.
Right.
So I just want you to know this is not brand new.
No, it isn't.
And we were talking about next year again
Yep.
to involve the community. There's no time like the present to start educating and communicating with the community about this issue.
All right, I'm going to take
You
the
may have
vote.
gotten nowhere, but you didn't get no support. So
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to take the vote. All those in favor of the motion
the motion is what?
is to basically start the discussion on increasing the annual charge.
Start the discussion.
Right.
Start
It's a
or
different
raise it.
motion than what I thought.
Start the discussion.
Raising
You can't
it.
vote to raise
No,
it.
it's
At
not.
least it starts the discussion.
Okay.
I don't know.
So those, Nancy, Renee, no, sorry, Alan, Nancy, Lynn. All those opposed? Dick, Ginny, Andy.
And Janet.
Janet.
And Janet.
Oh, and Janet, I'm sorry.
I moved back then.
Squares don't.
I don't know what else.
Don't work for
Abstain,
conversation.
abstain.
Out of the way.
Renee and Shari. All right, motion fails. Let's go on to Haven.
Yes, please.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate all of the discussion. Milton, anything you want to say about Haven?
Dan, you're on.
Lots of luck.
Appreciate it.
Hey, I got your back. I'm ready for it.
Better run back there.
In the expediency of time, I won't rehash the presentation from 2 weeks ago. But I will say that, in the past 2 weeks, we've all heard from members of the community about Haven and where it's found its place within the community. That being said, there are financial challenges there, as we have in other facilities, that we believe we can work forward through with the plan that was recommended by staff. The pro forma I shared last week, especially when the depreciation drops off, there's a significant change in the fortunes. But overall, I think there is a way forward. We see a lot of traction there. We've seen the usage, the demographics are shifting. We've seen a lot of positive changes in Haven in the last couple of years.
All right, Nancy.
I'm wearing my Haven Strong t-shirt.
What's your position on this, Nancy?
I am a huge supporter, and I'll tell you why. I've spoken to a lot of people there. I go on a regular basis, and it really is like a home away from home, thanks to Kevin and to Rita and to the staff there. They're wonderful, and they deserve our applause because this is a special place. It does need some reworking. It does need some more attention, but this is just as Dan put in the notes that he included in our packet. I think you didn't include the personal touch, which I think is a major part of it. I mean, the lifeguards there, even a smile or good work or anything from these people, and it makes you feel good. It's not easy to go and work out all the time, but when they do that, you just feel a whole lot better about what you just did. So I applaud them, and I know it's an unusual place, it's a special place, and I think that after all the money we've sunk into it, I think it deserves another chance, and I think that they need to find a way to turn it around.
Any other discussion? Janet and Ginny.
So is there a contingency plan after a year if we're looking at, so we've been misled on Haven a lot. And this was before I was on the board, but I mean, as you pointed out, the pro formas initially were way overly optimistic, and we have sunk a lot of money. And so I'm not necessarily a proponent of throwing additional money in just because we've already sunk. Like, I don't finish a book if I don't like it when I'm halfway through. But I just would like to know, if we try to move forward with this, what are the criteria that we evaluate it on? When can we evaluate it? And how do we know if it's panning out the way you expected it to pan out or not?
Great question.
Well, we've laid out a pro forma, and again, pro formas are educated guesses. In this case, the original pro forma that was built by Rob and the team was out of the blue. I mean, they had nothing to base it on other than really big educated guesses. Haven right now has a very strong foundation of a membership base. And so we're layering stuff on top of it, so it's not like we're starting it from scratch. And so, so we'll continually be measuring against that, how we're progressing. And ultimately, the ultimate measure is how are we progressing that net loss to zero? I mean, that's the measure. And where's that?
How do you know if you're on track? So if you're not tracking, at what point do you decide, okay, whoa, we need to reevaluate?
That's ultimately a discussion for the board. And with that, and that's one of the challenges when we had the conversation about subletting and everything last week, there's a cost associated with that right now is enormous. And so that ultimately becomes the discussion of the board. The thing about the Haven is if you look out on the pro forma, in 5.5 years, the depreciation drops to zero. Then you could almost, that's the end of the lease, then you could definitely go, we're out of here. And it's not, there's not a huge financial hit to the organization. So at a minimum, at that point, you make a decision. But anywhere along the way, I mean, as the board has the opportunity to say, this isn't working. But whatever investment we make, you have to realize if we put the spa in, or we put anything in, and we at the rate of $1 million, and we take that back out in 1 or 2 years, that's a massive operational hit because that charge then flips to a gain and loss on disposal. So there'll be a tremendous organizational financial hit.
So, I mean, the board could decide yes, but you're the expert, right? And so that's why I'm wondering what your criteria are. Like, after a year, if things aren't going well, then what's the...
Well, I couldn't, and realistically, I couldn't say in a year, if the relationship was bad and we absolutely got nowhere in a year, but in a year, I think in the name of the spa, for a spa, that's to make a decision in 1 year is pretty quick. If in year 2 we're not making any progress and we're not seeing the membership growing, and really it's tremendously all about the membership, and the spa attracting the membership. But I will continue to measure it against there's several different layers of, so I'll be looking at the overall business, because ultimately the goal is to get that net loss to zero and then positive. So that's one measure. But the second key measure, and one thing we lacked previously, was how the spa truly integrates with what we're offering to the community, and is it really an amenity and a benefit of Haven, or is it just a separate business that resides there? And the whole reason for going the direction we are is that we have more say over that. So really, to sum it up, in a year, if we ended up going with like Exhale, and we're in the same place we were with the previous spa, then it's bad. Then it's like, time out, this has got to change. But from a financial perspective, I think it's 2 years, and if you look at the pro forma, you see that, because the first year you have startup cost, and some of this is going to play into when we actually get open. So there's going to be the timing of that. If we're not open on May 1st, that makes things a little tougher for the first year. But after the second year, we'll have a really good idea financially where we're at, and what kind of traction we're continuing to grow with the development downtown.
And can you remind me, do we have to pay to fit out the spa?
It's ours, yes.
Okay.
Because that's why we're doing the management. It's ours. And in a tenant situation, we would do landlord improvements anyway. So we would pay to fit it out anyway, because we're technically the landlords in this case.
Is the expectation that the spa will pay market rate rent?
The spa is ours. So we're hiring, we would do Exhale's a management company.
$100,000 a year management fee.
So they get a management fee to operate the business. We'll use their name because they have a brand name, but it's in name only. Ultimately, the business is ours.
Thank you.
Okay, so make sure the board does understand that what the proposal is that CA is actually operating this. Okay, we're having a consultant helping us, but it's all CA. We're not subleasing it, right?
We're not subleasing it.
Right.
It is all ours. we're hiring, it's not a consultant, it's a
Okay.
management company.
Management company, so.
So, and it will be, if we ended up with Exhale, it would be their name, because they have a brand name. But everything would flow back through to us.
Thank you.
Okay, just so everybody understands that. Jenny and then Alan.
A couple of quick questions, okay? Back to the management firm, I think it's about $100,000 a year we're going to be paying, okay. Will they hire the staff, will we hire the staff?
They handle all the business transactions, all the business.
So how do we make money from that? When somebody goes in for a massage or something, we get the money?
They
Do
collect
they
all the
get it
money.
in addition
They collect
to-
all the money, and then at the end of the month, we reconcile, and they pass through less the payroll cost and anything left over or any short comes to us. It would,
So we aren't paying their salaries?
no. We are indirectly, not directly.
We're paying their salaries in that whatever the cost of something is, they get to keep. It's any profit after that we get?
Yeah.
Okay, plus the $100,000 we're going to pay them, so they get, okay. All right, just a couple of quick ones. What is, the current loss is 1.5 million a year, or what? Is that correct?
It's 1.1.
Yeah. 1.452.
Close enough, okay. 1.45, okay, thanks. And we're talking about, we don't want to make it a gym. That's not wise because all the, in terms of product, all the apartments have gyms, the new office buildings downtown have gyms, et cetera. But what about spas? What if, and Pilates class and Thai class and yoga classes, what if some of the new buildings use their community rooms and say, hey, we can make some money by allowing somebody to teach yoga in here or Tai Chi or something in the apartment buildings, or the offices say, I can do this on site. Oh, could that be a competitive for us?
It could be, but it would break completely from what all those companies do.
Okay,
Companies
so
don't
we're
do that.
taking a chance that even though there's a lot of competition right now in the senior centers, the yoga center, all the spas that are in Howard County right now, we're saying that, no, there's a need for this here, right? And that's what this is based on. Okay.
Not only does Exhale want to be there, Red Door Spa from Elizabeth Arden has come and knocked on the door and asked about the space. That's a prime location for a spa.
Okay.
And not only is it's not necessary, it's the spa, but it's how it fits into Haven and what the whole Haven is. So it's not just like if we had space, I wouldn't be here saying let's open a spa, a standalone spa. That's not. It's part of the complete
experience
Haven product.
Okay. The last thing, I'm having the same concern that Janet is. I'm not seeing measurable criteria, specific measurable criteria that a year from now, who's ever on this board can look at and say, well, our loss now is only such and such. The members we anticipate will grow to such and such. And the board members can measure that as to whether we have a success. Right now, it seems very vague. Try this, it will be a success, but you're not, I want to challenge you, and I think this is what Janet did just now. I want to second that, to challenge the staff to give us some specific measurable.
I can give you the membership numbers behind the pro forma. I gave you the pro forma. So that pro forma is based on membership growth. I mean, I gave you, I had to build the pro forma. And so there are numbers behind that got us there. So, I mean, it's not, it's not arbitrary.
And
All right.
and the amount of money we'd lose, you're saying that's, would be less?
Yes.
Okay, next up was Alan and then Dick.
Few specific questions. To your knowledge or guesstimate, I'd like to know which it is. Was the previous spa profitable? Making money?
No, they were not making money because they couldn't pay the rent in their case. And they had other overhead issues.
Okay, but that's just then us taking on that cost. In addition to the $100,000 we're paying the management company, we're also going to pay that portion of the rent.
No, because a lot of their issues. See, I do have the benefit of It's a little better than a guesstimate. They approached a friend of mine about managing their spa for them, so he actually saw their numbers. And their operational overhead was sky high. So what they paid their accountant, what they paid to process their payroll was outrageous, and that was really what was killing their business.
Okay. A minor question, but it bugs me, and here you are to ask. If this is all us, why isn't the Columbia Association on the sign, the Haven sign on Little Patuxent Parkway?
Why didn't they what?
There's the name, the Columbia Association does not appear on the Haven sign at Little Patuxent Parkway.
That was a decision that was made before I
Before
got here, and we have not changed the
Anyway,
signage.
That bothers me. Do you know, give or take, or exactly, how much overlap there was in clientele? In other words, if a person walked in the door of the Haven, they had a choice of going to the spa, they had a choice of going to the Haven, they could have done both. How, in terms of driving, so the question is really leading towards driving membership. We could drive membership in a spa, but would that, do we have any data to show that that would drive membership in the Haven?
So I can't tell you the spa. What I can tell you is that when we dropped 1530, 50, 100. So when we stopped the memberships associated with the Haven, we lost a little under about 145 memberships.
When we dropped
with the spa.
Because we had a membership that
associated with the
included
Haven?
the spa.
Okay.
There were two memberships associated with the spa, the Restore and the Rejuvenate.
Associated with the spa, not the Haven. Okay, thank you.
They were Haven memberships. The Rejuvenate was inclusive. It included some spa services and all the Haven access, and the Restore was just for the spa. So we had 145 memberships when we ended that program.
We had or we lost?
We lost because they moved on. Into talking about revenue and achieving the bottom line, the Rejuvenate memberships that was a substantial amount of money.
Okay.
They're by far our most valuable memberships.
Okay. Two comments, one of which I've already talked to you about, and I guess you and I may just have to agree to disagree, but it still bugs me, is I'm not convinced, and I'm not familiar with the spa world, but I'm not convinced that in Columbia, Exhale is more of a brand name than Columbia Association. So that's a concern I have about this.
Well, and I'll point back to, as I did when we had the discussion the first time, and it was in the packet, the second packet that was shared, the original Club Intel work. And one of the things that was pointed out there was that the community does not believe we have the expertise to do that. So, we may have a better brand name, but we have nothing to back up that we can run a spa that people believe in. Where Exhale, where somebody may not know it, they go online and they look, and there's instant credibility that they're a preeminent provider.
Okay. Second piece, and I think it just sort of goes along with something Jenny said. We as a board, and this from our end, and the staff predating you, I believe, on their end, did a woeful job of keeping us apprised of performance of the Haven as compared to the pro forma. We kept asking for it. It showed up sporadically. It didn't seem, but we just said, we were promised X number of members by this time. Did we achieve X number of members? And so it's something I'm going to want us to be better at is just keeping track and keeping it in front of us so that we're conscious of what's going on.
Dick, and then Nancy, and then Shari.
Yeah, I'd like to respond to your branding question. Yes, we are more known in Columbia than Exhale is, but for what? When I was on the Levi's account, Levi's had a terrific brand name, one of the best brand names in the world, I think second only to Coca-Cola. But Levi's wanted to go into the men's suit business. and thought, oh, well, we have such a powerful brand, we can do it. Well, of course, it was a complete failure because the brand had nothing to do with men's suits. Now, I think we all realize now that if the previous board that approved this thing years ago knew what we knew now, they probably would not have gone with this. But here we are, and we got this thing.
Your wife goes to that thing. Be careful. Your wife goes to that thing. Be careful.
That's why.
This is being streamed.
Yeah, that's why she's
In
never
trouble.
home. Anyway, so we have this thing, and we have several ways we can take it from here, and including abandoning it or taking some shortcuts, and or we could try to make this thing work. And I think it can work. I think there is an audience for it. I think we've got people working on it now who know what they're doing. And I think Dan's got a pretty good track record in some of his other endeavors here. So I have confidence that maybe we don't, maybe we're not going to ever make this thing profitable, but we can make it less of a loss. And as to pinning this thing to certain numbers that have to appear in 1 year, I don't think that's really what we want to do. I think we want to see what happens, and 1 year from now decide whether this is something we want to continue with or not. But let's, because it's not necessarily, we don't necessarily need to make a profit on it. We don't make profits on the swimming pools. But we can certainly cut our losses considerably if this thing works out. So I think we need to trust our staff to do the right thing, and we'll see where we are a year from now.
Okay, Nancy?
I have one question. I don't understand. Are they going to rename Haven?
No.
Okay, it's just the spa
It'll
that's
be
going to be
Excel
called
at Excel
at the
Spa
Haven.
Haven on Lake.
Perfect. Okay, and I just wanted to say, I think this was built 5 years too early, and things are starting to happen downtown. The Merriweather District, which is a mouthful, is going to start opening up, and there will be a lot more people who are going to be interested. Young people love this place.
Okay, Sherry?
Yeah, you may have talked about this already in terms of the business arrangement, but who will be setting the charges for the various offerings like massage, acupuncture, and things of that kind? Is that going to be set by Exhale?
They'll be the primary, but again, we haven't got into those discussions because we're not at that point. Like right now, we just did an RFP, and they do have a pricing schedule, but we've not negotiated anything related to an agreement.
Yeah, okay.
We're not there.
So I guess I've expressed this before also, but I think that the wellness center concept sits very well with people. I think that one of the ways that we missed the mark was with the idea of this luxury spa, which sort of suggested this, one percenter kind of thing, where a lot of people didn't think that they were going to be comfortable. So I think if we can rework this around the idea of total wellness, and we have heard people address that when they come here, and continue to build that and also keep the rates reasonable for our area, very competitive. Certainly within the first year or two. If we start inching up into that real luxury and start adding on a 10% surcharge and that kind of thing, I think that's going to send the wrong message. So I hope that in whatever our relationship is going to be, that we will be able to give some feedback and that we'll see in the numbers whether or not those numbers are taken off. We've got to be really careful not to price ourselves too high and make it welcoming to everyone.
Any other discussion? Alan?
Yeah, similar to Shari's question about fees, I guess I would add services. And I know you haven't negotiated the final details, but what are we prepared to let them do, and what are we prepared to put the brakes on and say, no, we're not, that would be a deal breaker?
I'm not sure we want to
No,
negotiate that
once
quite
again, it's a,
publicly
we have
yet.
to finalize.
Well,
the
then let me
management
just
contract.
let me just make it as a statement. I would be concerned if they had final say, full say over the ability to decide what services are offered at the Exhale on Haven and on prices.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All right, we have a recommendation from staff. Just to remind you, real quick, staff recommends continuing to provide spa services, enhancing the programming to further maximize the wellness opportunities. And then it goes on. So is there a motion to accept staff's recommendation? Dick moved.
Second.
Nancy seconded. Okay, just a second. Okay, I would like to offer an amendment. I would like to add that at the end of fiscal year '22, that staff come back to the board with a comparison of actuals to pro forma. That gives us 2 years.
Can we get a regular reporting?
Absolutely.
Annual.
Not to make a decision, but I think we should wait 2 years to see if they're matching pro formas.
Well, but the problem is, the first, as Dan said, the first year is catch up. I mean, is
But that's built into the pro forma.
That's what I don't see that. You don't want to wait too long where it's a disaster possibly, and then you're saying, oh my God,
I'd like
what
to
do we
get
do?
quarterly comparisons.
I
of
agree.
I agree. I second that. Thirded?
Well, wait.
I'm not saying we're gonna make decisions based on it. Friendly amendment then, Andy, sorry.
Second that friendly amendment.
all right. So
You didn't get a second on your first
I
one.
know I didn't get a second one first. I didn't finish it.
You want to revise your first one to be the second one?
All right, no. What I'm going to do is I'll withdraw my amendment and ask if somebody else has
Janet,
an
you
amendment.
want to do your
That's the easiest way to do it.
I'd like to propose not for a vote type of situation, but a quarterly reporting comparing actuals to pro forma so
Second.
that we can see what's on track.
Second.
So could we start that though in fiscal year '21?
No.
No.
Start at the first quarter.
Because you're not doing anything in '20.
The pro formas, from the time it starts to the time it ends.
If it isn't gonna start.
Whatever the time of the pro forma is.
Well,
Dan, a question for you. From industry practices, if you know, what would be the reporting time frame? If you're starting the spa, hypothetically, if we're opening on May 1st, 2020.
One, I'm not sure we're going to make May 1st, 2020. So
Okay, but
that's
just
different
take a
conversation.
date, because I wanted it to be relative to something and within reason.
6 months
But,
after they
you know,
open.
within our scenario, you would probably do a 6-month check-in.
Oh, was it
A quarterly, you can see too many swings, you know, because you didn't plan this, happened in this quarter versus this quarter. So you'll just see a lot of variances when you start looking too small, especially when something's new. But I mean, I can do whatever the board would like.
Would it be possible to do, so a 6-month check-in, but then with rolling 6-month averages of 2 quarters? So, you know, like each quarter get the last 6 months?
Yeah,
Is that?
yeah.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, and
Just
I
so when
don't.
you look at our quarterly reports, you can see some of the variances we have, they disappear the next quarter just because, you know, you plan things, they don't happen the way you think, and within a quarter, you can, especially in the first year, you can see some swings that it looks horrible, and then the next quarter it's fine.
Well,
Jenny and
excuse me,
and
do
Al.
I understand you're saying that until you open, 6 months after you open, you need that time, but then after that, you could do quarterly reports to the board?
I could do monthly if you wanted. It's just, the data may
Let's
not be
not overdo
valuable.
it.
I mean,
No,
the
we want it to
data,
be realistic.
the data, well, I'm just saying the
Yeah,
data
no,
may
we
not
get-
be valuable.
Yeah, but we're not.
At a high level.
I don't think we're saying that we're going to make a decision on it. It's just
I'm
it being informed, which what I'm hearing from the board members is in the past, they weren't informed, and they're upset about that, and that's one of the reasons we're subsidizing it so or our residents are
I'm
subsidizing
willing
it.
to do whatever
so
the
heavily.
board asks.
So,
I'm just saying, if you get too granular from a high level, it'll look very noisy.
One last question on that. Will the quarterly report include the loss or the subsidy from the residents for the Haven?
It would include everything. It would basically
Okay,
be
because that's the
P&L.
interest that I hear a lot about, is
It
why
would
are we
be-
heavily subsidizing it? Okay.
It would be basically, you'd get
Okay,
the
okay.
P&L.
Thanks.
I mean,
You wanna
you're gonna
second?
get the quarterly
Do you have
statement anyway that has
motion?
the full
Good
Haven
second.
P&L in it.
Right. Alan or Renee?
I'm fine with noise. I think we're smart enough to understand noise. I think quarterly makes sense. I would rather monthly, but I think quarterly, just in terms of workload, quarterly makes sense. And I'm really only envisioning two numbers to be specifically put out and graphed. One would be membership, and the other would be profit or loss. And just compared to whatever the pro forma said, where we predicted ourselves to be at this point, compared to where we are, and just so we can track. It's sort of like keeping track of, when we were in college, how many pages do we read on that book that was due to be read in 2 weeks? And we made sure we read a certain number of pages every day, just to track where we are.
Renee?
I'm all for the quarterly reporting. I just think it's imperative that if we're going to continue to spend our residents' money, that we do it wisely.
No.
No.
Okay, Janet, your proposal was, your amendment was quarterly reporting, right?
I second it.
But I'm okay if it starts 6 months in.
As long as it's
So-
quarterly.
Okay, so we're talking quarterly reporting 6 months after the start of the spa, is that it? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Just make sure.
Can
Sure.
I
Yeah.
also get clarity on
Okay.
exactly what we want
Yes.
recorded, so I know
Yeah.
what I'm.
Right, because originally what I heard was the pro forma, right? That was Janet's.
Whatever the pro forma promised.
Okay, so we're doing the pro forma.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Alan suggested.
Right, Alan had
two
a slightly
numbers.
different, right,
Okay.
Alan had a different thing. No, I think what I'm hearing from the board, the amendment is quarterly reporting,
So Dan, would you be tracking that anyway, or is that something you're gonna have to do just to provide to us? Because, I mean, I agree that we may not need every number, but I
So
want to see.
We'll budget against the pro forma, so
Mhm.
I would have to create a separate reporting for you, yes. That would,
How do you track it then? Like, when you have a pro forma, do you not compare those numbers on a regular basis?
I do compare, but I
Oh.
just pull them up on two screens.
just
and
look
you
at
them. I'm not creating a separate
Gotcha.
reports.
Yeah.
I'm able to just look at them and see, this is where I expected to be.
I'd be
This
okay
is
with
where-
2 screenshots.
Yeah.
You know? I'm not kidding. I mean, I can read them. It's, I don't want to create a
charts and
big
graphs,
reporting
yeah.
burden, but you know.
I create a lot of charts and graphs, but that's not something I would chart or graph.
I don't think we want surprises too far down the road. you know?
I'm not arguing with you, I'm just trying to get
Yeah.
clarity.
And I'm just trying to make sure that I don't want it to be an undue burden. I would like the information, and I'm not kidding when I say it. Like, I think 2 screenshots would probably be fine.
okay, so the motion is quarterly reporting Haven, against the Haven pro forma, beginning 6 months after the start of the spa.
Mhm.
All right, all those in favor of that amendment? Unanimous. All right. Any further discussion? I'm going to call the question on the overall recommendation, which has been modified with that amendment. All those in favor of the staff recommendation? Unanimous. All right. Okay, wow, we made 2 decisions tonight.
It's early.
Yeah, right.
early.
Yeah. Okay,
Andy?
yes,
I just want to call attention to our time,
I know.
since it is almost 10:30.
Yes.
And we have many other items. I think we have to make a decision about what we're going to do. We said we did not want a repeat of the midnight.
Absolutely not.
The
We do
midnight
not
special.
want a repeat of
Once a week
last week. It's
So
not
is
gonna
it
work.
possible, I think at most, there's one item that if it can be done within 15 minutes?
Which one?
Which one? The village thing? Or-
That, whatever the board feels is most pressing. I mean, I think that's one of the things we have to
Oh, God, you
be
can't cut
realistic
things off when
about,
people are
that
sitting there
the
waiting for it. Okay.
agenda was more
Yeah,
ambitious than we
coordinated.
can get to.
Oh, jeez.
What's the board want to do? I mean,
My concern is people have been waiting a long time for what they think is on the agenda, and if we are not to cover that,
Send them home.
I think it could be a big mistake.
Dick?
I would
Agree.
say, let's just go to the new indoor pool feasibility study, because that is what people are here waiting for. And the rest of the stuff is pretty much formality.
Yeah.
But how much time you want to spend on it? Because we're already
We're spending
technically
time now.
past our.
Let's give it a,
Just
well,
started and hopefully
we
other comments.
had originally scheduled,
Yeah, it's gotta
how
be
much did we originally schedule?
Well, it
Oh,
may go,
30 minutes, let's put 30 minutes down.
it may go faster, but we're wasting 5
Then let's
minutes
say
talking
that
about
All
we're
right.
at 11.
At 11 o'clock, we're ending the meeting. I'll tell you that now, right? 11 o'clock, we were ending the meeting. All right, let's go on to the indoor pool feasibility study. Welcome, Milton. Anything you want to add? Welcome again, Dan.
Thanks for having me back. First time was so much fun. Glad to come back and do it again.
Hello again.
Hey, you were successful in the previous issue, so.
Okay, so I have a PowerPoint that walks through the study, because the study was pretty hefty. I believe it was 56 pages long. There was a lot of options and a lot of things that were put out there. But a reminder that the feasibility study was just, staff was asked to go back and update the one that was done before. So that's all we just went back to the original vendor who did the original feasibility study and had them refresh it. But this time we did add pro formas, possible pro formas for the different facilities. So that's all that this really entailed. Slight history, and you've heard some of it earlier today. In Resident Speak Out, the master plan was completed in 2012 and identified the need for indoor lanes to satisfy demands for lap lanes and swim team. Staff engaged William Architects in FY14 to complete the feasibility study, the original feasibility study. And as someone also pointed out earlier, makes more financial sense to build a new one than try to convert an old one and put a shell around it. In the interim, based on feedback, CA board approved a $6.7 million project to improve the swim center. That included splashdown, but many other amenities, including new locker rooms, that was completed. I think this summer was the first summer that I've been here that the swim center was open. Then in FY17, we also, there was some mention. Jane Demner led a multi-faceted team from the county, from CA staff, and as well as some of the people at Howard Community College.
Before you go on, I get that I get how the swim center improvements impact swimming, but I'm not clear the intersection of that and a decision on the indoor pool.
It's more inclusive of that there was an investment in improving indoor swimming to make so there was investment in aquatics. Aquatics wasn't completely bypassed, and they received aquatics received a investment that was commensurate with some of the other investments that were made. Whether it was Haven, whether it was Hobbits, tennis. So there was a substantial commitment from the CA board to aquatics, as has been shown to other facilities.
Let's let Dan continue.
Okay.
So the study or the collaborative work team at FY17 looked at developing a partnership and seeing what those opportunities were. And that's really where a lot of work was done on the 50-meter pool. That's the Share the Lane report, if anybody would like to go take a look at that. But what we found from that was, one, private municipalities are not building 50-meter pools. They're usually large universities or government, and they definitely don't ever make money. You need so much programming to make them work. And then the other issue that we had, actually two of the second and the third issues, was that finding land to build it. Nobody had land available. The county doesn't have any land. We don't have enough land to build it. And then funding, and as was noted in that report, the partner organizations, like 2027 was the earliest they could even consider. And this was our peers, so this wasn't government leaders saying 2027 would be the earliest that anyone could envision having funds to even begin to consider that. So moving into the actual study, again, the initial study, feasibility study, looked at what outdoor pools can be converted in Dasher Green. It's Dasher Green, right? Yes. And Locust Park were the sites that were looked at as the most possible. Locust Park was more ideal, and again, in this scenario, for a variety of reasons, Locust Park was also the most viable location, given all of the circumstances, and more so access and parking. Because as the facility grows, the parking demands grow. There were 3 scenarios that were created. The first one was just a simple box with a 22,000 square foot box with a 10-lane lap pool and 60 parking spaces.
I'm sorry, how many lanes?
10.
10 lane?
The gray on the right is parking?
Yeah.
Oh, 10 lanes, it's up there.
This is just the internal configuration, just a single pool, lockers, basic, very basic amenities. Scenario 2 added a second, it was an 8-lane lap pool with a 2-lane training pool, some designated seating space, so it becomes a little more multi-purpose room, and 100 parking spaces, so it becomes a little more complex, allows a little more variety of programming. And then that's what the general would look like inside: the main pool, the training pool, the front areas and locker rooms. The third scenario was the largest and most complex, all the way up to 41,000 square feet, a 10-lane lap pool, a 3-lane training pool, upper and lower deck seating, a large multi-purpose room, and now, given the increase in size, 140 parking spaces.
Dan, is
yeah.
part of this, do you know if they investigated parallel parking on Lambskin Lane?
They did not.
It looks like the shell of each of those last 2 is the same. Is that
They're
correct?
not quite the same, and that's where we get into, they could be generally close. And that's where we get into, and this is where it gets confusing. So we have 3 different options of the types of internal layouts. So then you have 3 shells. The option A is just a pre-engineered building, like the tennis building. It's just a square. You drop it down, aluminum building, as someone pointed out, not very attractive, but more functional. Option B is semi-pre-engineered. So you can configure the internal space so it is relatively square. So you can still kind of use a basic shape without a lot of design elements, but you can add glass and make it look a little more attractive, but it's still basically a giant rectangle. And then option 3 is the custom design, where the building is designed to conform with the layout of the internal uses. Then getting into the construction cost summary. So in the memo that I wrote, actually it's not in the memo. You can see the A, B, and C, the square box with windows, and the custom building don't equate to all 3 of the scenarios. The simple pool, the scenario 2, which had the 2 pools, and scenario 3, which had the upper and lower seating. So option 1, because it's a square box, gives you the most options for the envelope. So you can see the total construction cost ranging from $11.3 million to $13.7 million. That does include the 3-year escalation, because we wouldn't, if we were to approve money now, we wouldn't be building it until then. Scenario 2 doesn't allow for the basic simple box. There is some custom design to it. Scenario 2, which has the 2 pools, but the single decking seating is $18 million to $19.4 million. And then scenario 3, which is the complete custom building with the 2 pools and the upper deck seating, is $24 million in construction cost. Last time we had a talk about the pre-construction cost. For the different scenarios, this is roughly what the if you were to budget for A&E, this is the number that would need to be budgeted to get us in the ballpark of what it would cost to do the architecture and engineering of each of the 6 scenarios, ranging from $1.2 million to $2.5 million that would be required. Now because this would be something you would be deciding on now, the 3-year escalation cost isn't included in that, and every year we push it out, we would add the 5% to those costs to match the commensurate construction costs going up. So as far as operating, now in operating we looked at the different potential scenarios. Scenario 1, which is only the square box with the single pool, only really allowed to move the Clipper swim team and Master swim team over there. Scenarios 2 and 3, and again, this is moving from the swim center over to, and then any growth would happen there. And Supreme, we have Clippers at Supreme and Masters at Supreme. But all the revenue goes to swim center. So we're housing people at Supreme, but all the Clippers revenue goes to the swim center. And looking at the first year, in scenario 2 and 3, we could move lessons as well, other aqua classes. We could move a lot more programming over there with the bigger pools in the second pool, so we'd be able to pull a lot more out of the swim center. The first year pro forma net gain ranges from a loss of $1.6 million to a loss of $2.5 million on an annual basis.
Forever, or?
Yeah.
First year, you said.
Yeah, well, I put the first year in, so it drops a little bit, and you'll see it move a little bit. But in the packet, in the actual study, you have complete 6-year pro formas. So in scenario 3, first year it's $2.44 million, and I'm doing quick math here. It's $2.3 million. so it doesn't change dramatically through year 6. The loss stays pretty constant because you're only gaining incremental revenue, and it's not unending. There ultimately is a cap to the revenue that you can incur. Here, there was a chart looking at the incremental revenue and what the net loss would equate to for the incremental revenue per estimated new user based on some of the figures that were used in the pro forma that was derived from staff. The pro forma wasn't derived from staff. The staff provided the consulting company with the growth potential.
Is there any possibility of using it, like renting it out for events or things like this?
That's
to help
included in there.
Rentals
are included in there.
It includes on the weekends renting the facility out in the afternoons on Saturday and Sundays to other swim teams when the Clippers would not be using it to generate revenue.
Can I ask a question? So I see that you have the Clippers, but if we take example 3 or scenario 3, so you have the Clippers, Masters, swim lessons. So does that run that pool from 5 in the morning until 10 at night, and it's open all those hours, or do you close it for a few hours?
Well,
I'm specifically asking about the afternoon, like from 11 to 2 or some.
In 11 to 2 right now, it would be closed.
So.
To save money.
Right. So.
Because there'd be no gain.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand. So how many people are on the Clippers right now?
There's 300.
300. And there's about 100 on the wait list. Are there still 100 on the wait list? In other words, have any of them joined other teams?
As of right now, there's about 90 on the wait list.
And none of the 90 have joined any other teams?
We had about 400 bids for tryouts this year.
Right.
So some of those other 400 have joined other teams.
They've joined other teams. Okay.
But we
And,
have 90 still waiting to get on.
okay. And how many of your Clippers swimmers are CA residents versus Howard County residents?
That I don't have right off the top.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
They are all CA members.
I understand. I'm just trying to get where we're going with this, so.
Dan, so this would be built in lieu of the Locust Park pool, that would be gone. Now, what happens to the people who currently use the Locust Park pool? Are they just out of luck, or they get to use this facility?
No, they would have to go to a different.
They'd have to go to a different.
Yeah.
Is that a pool that's very actively used?
That's why my understanding, that's why it was originally included in the original study.
Because this is one of the pools we might close anyway.
Let
No.
us not
You know
put
what?
that
I'm so
rumor out
sick
there,
of you
Dick.
people dumping
Okay.
on Long Reach. I'm telling you.
Let's not do that.
Like, let's take one more thing away.
I just wanted to create a little excitement.
Yeah, you did it. Congratulations.
Dan, keep going with your.
Okay, and so now the consultant looked only at the new center, but as you know, some people have pointed out, and some of this programming is coming from somewhere. There's a lot of this is existing revenue, so it comes from the swim center. And so the FY20 budget for the swim center is to lose $907,000. Under scenario 1, in which we just moved mainly the Clippers over, that would adjust to 1.1 million.
Is this in addition to the loss, operating loss?
Correct.
On the previous screen?
Yeah. And in scenario 2 and 3, where we move lessons and many other things, masters, that grows to $1.2 million dollar loss there. So then you combine them. So if you look at, for the two facilities, this is the combined loss of the two facilities.
But Dan, can't you get just a swim center membership?
No.
You
It's
have
the
to
play
belong.
membership.
What?
It's the play membership.
Okay, but with all the development downtown, even though some of the buildings have outdoor pools, but not all of them have indoor. So for people that want to swim, wouldn't they join the swim center?
We did
They're not going to
not,
join, I mean, the Haven, you're not going to be
Let him answer
swimming,
your
really.
question.
Yeah.
we did not include any membership in this because the whole premise of doing the study is that we can't satisfy the current demand. So how can we say we're going to sell more memberships if we can't meet the current demand? It's kind of a circular argument.
No. What I'm saying is if the Clippers and the master swimmers left the swim center and went to the new pool, that'd have more lane
But we're
space.
freeing up that lane for the people who are saying they don't have space now. The premise is there's people who are waiting who need the lane. So we're building this to free up those lanes so those people can use those lanes. So,
But your premise is they're all members already.
Yes.
Right.
yeah. That's why
Okay,
we-
Renee and Milton, let's be.
So I don't go to the pools early in the morning because I don't function early in the morning. So I just want to understand, if I went to the Columbia Gym at 6 in the morning, how many people are waiting for lane space?
I couldn't give you an exact number, but the pool is busy.
Is-
From 5 o'clock in the morning to about 10:30 in the morning, every lane in the pool has 1 to 2 members in it, if not more. And where the pool slowed down is in the middle of the day. From
Right.
about 10:30 to 2:30, most of the pools are slow. We still even close the program pool at the swim center to save money because there aren't enough swimmers during that time of day. As soon as 2:30 hits until 8:30 at night,
Right.
every lane at every pool is completely filled and busy with the programming that's going on.
Okay. I need to really understand what the need is. Because I don't see one swimmer in a lane as being busy. I mean, I grew up in swimming. There's nobody here who cleaned swimming pools at 4 years old with their father in a 50-meter pool all summer. I mean, I did that weird stuff. But I don't see one swimmer in a lane as being busy. I know people like to have their lane by themselves, but I just don't see that as being as busy as what people think. So I guess my real question is, how busy are we really? If we go from pool to, there's 4 pools, right? Or 5, well, I don't consider the athletic club a pool in the sense of swimming.
Right.
How many people are there really swimming, and what is the real need, and at what hour? And that's easy to figure out because you can just take a clicker and figure it out. If we're going to make this type of major investment, I mean, we're going to have to raise assessments a lot to do this. And we're going to have to probably float a bond or take out a long-term debt to put up a pool. I'm okay if we can show that there's true need in the community to do it. That's my question. What is the true need to do it? And I don't see those numbers here. Does that make sense?
Yes. That wasn't the.
I know, go ahead.
The Aquatics Master Plan identified that and did that study.
Right, and even.
They drove this.
Right,
So
no,
we
I
were
get
just
that,
looking at
but
the
even in that
feasibility of-
study, I didn't see where people sat there with clickers and figured out what the need is.
Actually, that was done in the study, and it's part of the appendix where we
Part of the
tracked all
appendix.
we tracked
Okay,
all
then
the
I'll-
lane usage
I'll
and
go
the hours.
get the appendix
And
from
when-
someone.
And when I tell you, I'm being brutally honest, during prime time hours, all of those pools have 2 to 3 swimmers in every lane, and the Clippers swim 6 to 8 deep in the lanes.
Well, right, and swim teams do that.
And so there are a lot of swimmers in all those pools from prime time
Okay,
hours. After prime time hours and during the day,
Right.
they're not high.
Right, I mean, make no mistake. I swam as a youth, that swimmers do swim 60 people per lane. I'm not saying it's good, I'm not saying it's right. I'm not opposed to a pool, I'm opposed to making sure that we're comfortable with the analytics involved in putting up a pool, that we're extraordinarily comfortable with the financial aspects of putting in a pool. That's the only place I'm coming from. I'm not opposed to pools. In fact, I'm for pools. But I want to make sure that we're doing this for the right reasons and that we can support it over a long term.
Milton?
One thing that we should add to this conversation is that if you look at the entire picture, this is just the loss for the indoor. We still have 23 outdoor pools where we lose, $3 million on?
22 if you lose Locust Park.
We still have X number of outdoor pools wherever you live.
Jenny?
I think the issue is also in terms of competition, that we really don't have an indoor pool. We have several indoor pools that just don't make sense. The therapy pool in terms of swimming, really, and the Haven, I guess, is somewhat questionable, but it's not the same as the Columbia Gym lanes and the Supreme Court lanes and the Swim Center lanes. But we don't really have a place where we can have competitions. This is what the gentleman presented before. You can't watch your kids competing or your loved one and a master swimmer or something competing. We don't have stands or anything like that. Now, should we have that in Columbia? Are we sophisticated enough to eventually have that? Why not? Why can't we have what other communities have? That's the point that I'm missing, and this allows for that, for a change.
So I'll be the devil's advocate. I mean, because the problem is I look at the numbers, and I'm saying that unless we get support like from the county or the college or something,
we need a partner.
I mean, this is more than basically our entire capital budget for 1 year. I mean, and then to add another $2 or $3 million net decrease on top is just, Renee's right. We are going to have to raise the assessment. I mean, look, at $2 million, that's 4 cents to cover that. I mean, that's 4 cents solely for this. It's just the numbers are boggling, and I keep thinking this is one where you do it with partners. I mean, it's just, I don't know how we do it.
So to the membership question, we would need, if you wanted to pay for this, on the low end, you would need 3,200 new play members. On the high end, you would need over 5,000.
Wow.
As compared to current numbers, which are?
I think it's 4,000 total.
All right, Janet, Dick, I think, and was it
I
Sean?
wanted to highlight Ed's point about the scale of this building in that location, because it would be very close to the street in a residential neighborhood. To have, essentially a 3-story building is completely out of scale with that location.
Along with, the discussion about using it as a neighborhood center, so that the building, there's not that much space, and yeah, there would be a lot of challenges with it.
Dick?
I'm just trying to get my head around the need here. And obviously there's a need now. We have the 3 options, 3 different sizes, 3 different, numbers of lanes. If we went, let's say, with the low end of this, does that solve the problem, or does that just alleviate the problem?
No,
I see somebody
in my
shaking
opinion,
your head back there.
In my opinion, it would be throwing bad money.
So
Because it really doesn't do,
Okay,
it doesn't
so that would
provide
just,
anything. I mean, I wouldn't, if I had to recommend, it would not be scenario 1. It would just be a waste of money.
It is a waste
Now-
of stands or anything.
As we looked at this, the option A was, just the Quonset hut with the pool in it. When you go to option B and C, you're getting kind of fancy. Is it possible to do something that doesn't have all the architectural, that's more like, say, like the tennis center, for example?
Yeah, but that's also, it has to fit into the community. The tennis center's in its own little space.
So that wouldn't be appropriate for the neighborhood, is what
Yeah,
you're saying.
I wouldn't dump that. We struggled with that. If we had built this in Hickory Ridge, we would not have, there would have been a lot more work done because of the location. But as it was, the work we had to do to make the tennis building presentable, even where it's at in Long Reach, we had to sink it below grade. We did a lot of things with the facade to make it not look like one giant monolith, but there's really nothing else around it to really gauge scale.
Well, it's actually a very nice building. It's utilitarian,
So
but
it would be hard, to Janet's point, it would be hard putting something this big and all that parking in the middle of that community.
Now, I take it, this, if we go this way, this is the only site that's feasible at this point, is that what I?
It's the most, yeah, it's the most logical for a lot of reasons. That was identified in the first study. And we really don't have any land available. I mean, we had to trade with Howard Hughes to get the tennis building built.
Okay, now, back when the Crescent was first being conceived, there was talk of putting a swimming center in there. They are talking about putting a library in there that I just fail to comprehend at all. Is that even worth exploring, putting a swim center in there in lieu of the library? And maybe some kind of, is there any way of looking at that, or is that just dead?
None of that's ours.
That's not our land.
Well, I'm saying,
You mean a partnership?
there's no way to negotiate something like that.
You mean a partnership like?
Right.
No.
And
Well,
that you'd,
I'm thinking a partner, well, the county wants to put a library in there, so can CA put a swimming pool?
They weren't willing to give it up when we did the Share the Lane report, so.
So that's just dead.
Yeah, I don't think that avenue, you can always ask, but I mean, we've already been told, because we sat with the county and we had maps out, it was Dennis, Jane and I, and then the county reps, we had maps, we were looking at like every plot of land, could it fit here, could it fit here? Proposed school sites, I mean, we looked at everything and there was
One final thing now. So I'm hearing that the miniature version's just off, forget about it. The big one's probably hard to afford. Is the little one just right, or the middle one just right, or is that?
From a financial perspective, building a new one, none of them are just right. So it's hard, as Andy pointed out, and that's where staff struggles. Everything else we've done has been a replacement. So we built the tennis center. So the net loss for tennis is $500,000. The depreciation for tennis is $500,000. So tennis is paying for itself operationally. And so, but this will never pay for itself. So it's how do you the challenge we have is pointed out, the community is going to have to pay for it and have to pay for it in a major way. And that's the hard thing. And, we talked about the Haven. That was here when I got here. But as I said, in 5.5 years, we can just say we're out and, we cut our losses. This is 20 years at a minimum because we own it. So we're not going to walk away in 20 years. And so once we open it, we're not going to close it. So, and there's no path, like we were talking about comparing to pro formas, at least we can have that conversation with the Haven where there's a potential path forward. I can't guarantee it, but there's a path that I can say, this, I cannot get you down any path where this remotely begins to pay for itself. So it's always going to be something the community has to pay for.
And the county and the college have no interest whatsoever?
Not until way down. The college is going to have to redo their pool. But, the timing we got was late 2020s before, anyone's ready. That doesn't mean things won't change. But, when we did this was only a couple years ago, 2 years ago. Late 2027 was the kind of the rough timetable where we got people. So people are interested in partnering, but just not for another decade.
So I have a question for Dennis here, because the costs, the construction costs, do they all sound reasonable? Are they what we're seeing? Or do you think... I'm sorry, but...
So there are no construction costs right now that are reasonable.
Okay.
But in terms of scale, yes, they seem reasonable.
Okay, so these are good numbers to look at. All right, Nancy and Renee, and then we're going to have to end because remember set at 11 o'clock.
We talked, this was years ago, they talked to the county and to the college, and again, they came up with nothing. I'm just wondering if, the county, if no one else, will listen to, if you can get 400 Clippers and families, and masters swimmers and families to go out there and march on a council meeting or something. I mean, seriously, they're bound to be responsive. If we can partner with them, I take it that the pool in Ellicott City is not a 50-meter pool that they have in the
This is not for a
Roger Carter.
50-meter pool.
This
If
is
you
not.
do a 50-meter pool, one, we don't have the land. And two, these costs escalate dramatically.
Oh,
I mean, that 23 million easily,
so what's the size?
35,
25
40
yards.
million.
25
Oh,
yards.
my.
So no, a 50-meter pool really isn't in anybody's, that's not at anybody. People are struggling to even, like 2027, to come up with the money to build a $20 million pool, $10 million in capital money that's not committed, because they have the same challenges we do. A laundry list of things that are aging, that have to be taken care of, so they were not even willing to remotely begin to
Can
commit.
I just ask one
Wait,
question?
Renee is.
Actually, Milton's going to take
Milton.
my turn.
Well, at the end of the conversation, I don't want it to sound like it's ending on a downer, is that what staff would like to do, we would like to explore some options. And I've talked to Dan briefly about this, and he didn't say yes or no, but I said I want to talk about it. Some options at the swim center where we can try to accommodate some of the concerns that the Clippers have. Now, it's not going to be an easy option, and we will bring it back to the board because it's going to more or less involve allocating certain hours of the day to exclusively for the Clippers at the swim center. That's just something we've talked about.
Wow. Okay.
All right, Renee,
No, he took my turn.
Dick, and then we got a.
Just one other crazy idea. We got that empty shopping center or supermarket at Long Reach. It is, I mean.
Dick, seriously?
I said I'm throwing out a crazy idea. I mean, is this the kind of thing that you would look at?
It's not the kind of thing Long Reach wants to replace the village center with.
I think the time is, I mean, I think we're starting to really kind of get off. So I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. And I apologize to the people who we couldn't get to on the agenda. But I think we've learned we gotta stop. So I'm going to call the meeting to a close, as we kind of agreed, 11 o'clock. So let me cancel the meeting. I'm going to adjourn the meeting.